recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. This is episode number 77, and I am your host, Ray Russell. And I hope you guys are ready, as it's time to talk Aptil TV. From 1987 in the WWF, it's the fallout from WrestleMania 3. But before we do, just a reminder, you can listen to the Wrestling Memory Grenade as well as our sister shows like Monday Warfare, where we talk Raw vs. Nitro, the weekly chronicle of the Monday Night War. We started all the way back in September 95. Right now, we're smack dab in the summer of 96. Hall and Nash have arrived, and the NWO are just getting ready to make their debut at the Bash at the Beach. You can also listen to our brand new podcast, the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. Just finished an awesome trilogy of episodes covering 1977 in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Went back another decade, covered 77 in the WWF. With my guest co-host, John McAdam of the Stick to Wrestling Podcast. Fun time there. Go check it out at the Regional Wrestling Podcast. Also upcoming on Regional Wrestling this week, my special guest is the former Ring of Honor owner, Mr. Kerry Silken. Going to join the show to talk his time growing up, watching the Capital Wrestling promotion, and then the WWF in the late 60s and early 70s. A really fun conversation with Kerry Silken that you're not going to want to miss. Also coming up very soon on Regional Wrestling, we're going to do a deep dive like we do here in the Grenade, but we're going to do it for the Universal Wrestling Federation in 1986. That's right, we're going to talk the entire year of 1986 in Bill Watts' UWF territory, and so much more planned in the coming weeks there on the Regional Wrestling Podcast. You can listen to all of our shows on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and everywhere your streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Google, and beyond. Also, be sure to follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also follow and like us, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. Follow us on social media for all the latest goings on at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. And I'm constantly adding new old school video clips as well as pictures from throughout wrestling history. Several great reasons to follow us on social media, and also make sure to stop on over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. I'm constantly adding new footage all the time as I continue to preserve my old VHS collection by converting it all to digital. And now is a great time to become a patron, a WrestleCopia patron that is. You can find us there at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Multiple tiers to choose from, but the $5 all access tier is where it's at. Get you so many gifts for just $5. And those gifts include all of my insanely detailed show notes from the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Monday Warfare, and now the Regional Wrestling Podcast as well. You'll also receive early access to many of the WrestleCopia podcasts. You can listen days, sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. Plus, you'll receive remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade covering 1989 in the NWA. What does remastered mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. It means enhanced sound quality and brand new content and conversations, originally edited out of the broadcast due to time restraints, edited right back in. And it doesn't end there. You'll also receive digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure, and of course, our Patreon exclusive Watch Along series, covering many past WWF and WCW pay-per-views, Coliseum videos, Saturday Night's main events, Clash of the Champions, and more. All of that for the low, low price of just $5. You'll get the early access, the insanely detailed show notes, Patreon exclusive watch-alongs, digital downloads, remastered versions with new conversations, all of that, plus other goodies I throw in from time to time for the low price of just $5. And remember, guys, no subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a go for a month. And I think you'll like the content we offer, and every penny of it goes right back in to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. So please help pay some of the bills, help keep the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Monday Warfare, Regional Wrestling, and more up and running for the months and the years to come. And all right, with all of that out of the way, it's time to dive back into the WWF 1987. We're going to look at TV from April of 87 to be specific. But before we can get there, there's one final episode of television here in the month of March. WrestleMania took place Sunday, March 29th, while the following day, Monday, March 30th, it's time for another edition of Primetime Wrestling. All right, and of course, your host, as always, is Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby the Brain Heenan. But Gorilla, he's not going to insult your intelligence this week. Let you know right off the bat, this particular episode of Primetime has been pre-recorded.
I'm Gorilla Monsoon.
And I'm your host, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Primetime Wrestling. As you can tell by the look on the face of the Brain that he is neither elated or dejected over the results of WrestleMania 3 because, in fact, this particular edition of Primetime Wrestling was put to bed before WrestleMania 3. So
pre-recorded.
You're still safe.
Well, I'm sitting here right now. I could be manager of the heavyweight champion of the world.
Or you could not.
No, I don't think that way.
Well,
believe me, you're watching the manager of the world's heavyweight champion.
We still got some of your illustrious family with us this week. King Kong Bundy in one of our features with Jake the Snake Roberts, courtesy of Saturday night's main event. A most interesting matchup.
And the great historic. You know, you talk about the movie like Gone with the Wind, right?
Yeah.
Or Jaws. Doesn't even compare.
How does Gone with the Wind compare with Jaws?
I mean, great history's a movie. I mean, great movies.
Okay, go ahead.
Boy, is he rude.
Continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fuji General is going to be shown
one of the many parts that we're going to be featuring here on Primetime Wrestling. Of course, our feature.
All right, this episode obviously recorded prior to WrestleMania 3. They're not going to fool you here. So Bobby Heenan, well, you could be looking at the manager of the new World Heavyweight Champion, Andre the Giant, or you could be looking at, well, a loser. But Bobby, he likes to think positive. And if you guys can't tell by now, with this being recorded prior to WrestleMania 3 and them not even trying to fool you on it, there's not going to be any real discussions here this week, no real storylines going down this week. So essentially a throwaway episode of the show, but I did manage to grab a few sound bites in the process. As we move on, we're coming out of a match featuring the Outlaw Ron Bass going over on Leaping Lanny Poffo that kicked off the show, as Gorilla and Bobby talk the ongoing issues, the Battle of the Texans, the Outlaw Ron Bass, and Blackjack Mulligan.
Ron Bass chalking up another victory here this week in the World Wrestling Federation. We're going to be seeing a whole lot more of him. We'll be back. Big Blackjack Mulligan's flying elbow is a lot more effective than that one.
Oh, Monsoon,
would you not
don't be silly. Of course not. Man's copied everything Mulligan's ever done. They asked the name of Mulligan's Ranch. You didn't know the name of it.
No, I don't.
I do.
I've never been there.
Well, I know the name of it.
What is
the Flying Dumbbell Spread.
Boy, give me a break.
That's the name of it. You asked me. You know what happened if he ever got in the ring with Mulligan? He'd be there by himself. Mulligan would take off running.
Mulligan's been chasing this guy ever since he came to the World Wrestling Federation, and even before that. This guy refuses to sign a contract that's got Blackjack's signature on it.
Nah, Mulligan's just a lot of talk. He's a typical Texan. He's just got a big, loud mouth and a lot of dust all over him. He's a big, tough guy about 3 o'clock in the morning at the old Rock Inn when he jerks a guy backwards off a bar stool.
Like you were around Beverly Hills in your younger days. You might have been around in 29 for all I know.
I wasn't around in 1929.
Okay, Heenan having some fun there with his former charge Blackjack Mulligan, managed Mulligan and Lanza many, many years ago in the early 70s. They talk about the ranch of Blackjack Mulligan. Bobby Heenan says it's called the Flying Dumbbell. Having a little fun there. And by the way, guys, talk about a throwaway episode. That Lanny Poffo Ron Bass match ate up nearly a quarter of this 2-hour episode of TV. Yes, you throw in the banter between Monsoon and Heenan, you throw in the commercials, but the first 25 minutes of the show outside of that, all Ron Bass versus Lanny Poffo. Nearly 1/4 of the show eaten up here. by a Poffo and Bass match. The definition of a throwaway episode, but the show goes on, and we heard them talk a little bit about Bass and Mulligan. Now we're going to hear from old Blackjack. He's standing by with Mean Gene Okerlund.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to get you back to more exciting primetime wrestling right here on the USA Network. Blackjack Mulligan, WrestleMania 3 is history, of course, but so many things are happening as it is constantly here in the World Wrestling Federation, volatile at all times. There's been a man from Texas, from Houston, south of Sweetwater, that has brought up your name in conversation a time or two, and I'm talking about Outlaw Ron Bass.
Well, you know something, Gene? That's a name that's not mentioned. For just a second, everybody stop everything you're doing. Get the kiddos up close to the TV set, because I'm going to say it one time. I'm going to explain it one time to everybody so they can hear it. Now, Ronnie Bass, you are not even considered a part of this family of Texans, because I think he's transported from New Mexico or somewhere. Now, Ronnie Bass, I don't want to hear your mouth running off about my family anymore, and let's just leave it at that, and let's just drop it right there, all right, Mean Gene?
I won't say what he said about Aunt Laverne.
We don't want to hear it, brother, anything about Aunt Laverne. But what we want to talk about is the electricity. Everybody is talking about Blackjack Mulligan. What's he going to do? Who's he going to go after? What's the things, the possibility that's going to happen in Blackjack Mulligan's life? The freight train, just like the song that precedes him, is rolling right on down them rolling tracks, brother. You can feel it. Aunt Laverne, Reba Joe, the whole family, we've been down to ranch, the Headlock Ranch, discussing it. What you had better do is everybody, when you see Blackjack Mulligan, you had get in that ring, be ready to go for knuckle sandwiches, because it's going to be the toughest, roughest match of your life, no matter whether you're good, whether you're bad, and you better be good, for goodness sake, because Blackjack Mulligan is coming your way. Whether it's Ronnie Bass, whether it's old Big Bundy, whether whoever it is, Blackjack Mulligan is coming. No surprises, brother.
Say hi to the family for me, will you?
Ooh, Aunt Laverne, Uncle Reba Joe. I'm going to tell you, Uncle Red will be there very soon. See you, brother.
For me.
Oh, hello, Gina.
Don't you talk about old Aunt Laverne. I'm going to miss these promos from Mulligan here. So Blackjack Mulligan versus Ron Bass, the feud we could have had. We'll never know who would have won that, and I couldn't be happier for it. As the show goes on, we talked about it on the March edition of WWF TV. It was the final edition of Roddy Piper's Pit, where he announces his retirement from the ring and says goodbye one final time to the fans. Piper gets down from the table, takes his portraits with him. The Hot Rod never to be seen again after WrestleMania 3. Well, until WrestleMania 5. But Roddy says something there in this promo here on the Piper's Pit. He talks about his daughter clinging to his leg when he tried to leave to go back on the road the last time he came home, begging him to stay home with her. Bobby Heenan having some fun here with this one. Let's listen.
Final farewell of Rod. You're being facetious now.
What, because of that?
Yeah.
No, I slammed the phone too hard and hit my eye. Had nothing to do with that pit.
You are too much.
You know, I remember hearing about that story, how his little girl grabbed his leg, but he had it backwards. She was telling him to stay gone another 50 days so she could play with her toys by herself.
Now, you wouldn't know anything about that. Your family doesn't care whether you ever come home. True or
let's
false?
put it this way. Oh, do you see those beautiful paintings he left with? Those were works of art. It's amazing. Just amazing. Did you see that painting?
I thought they were rather well done.
Couldn't even see the numbers.
Oh, numbers.
Well, I'm glad he's gone.
From the sublime to the ridiculous.
Gorilla Monsoon.
No, talking about the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh.
And the Colonel.
The Colonel. My
Friend
man.
of yours.
Jimmy Hart.
Talk about two pieces of garbage. We're going to be looking at
those paintings he took off?
No, I'm talking about the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, the self-proclaimed Colonel of professional wrestling. And, of course,
so
the
long,
Honky
Roddy.
Tonk Man. What do you mean so long?
Bye-bye, Roddy.
Let's go to the special recording studio.
Heenan wipes his eyes facetiously, says Gorilla Monsoon. Bobby says that Roddy had it backwards. His daughter wasn't begging him to stay. She was begging him to stay gone an extra 50 days so that she could play with her toys all by herself. The brain goes on there to talk about the paintings that Roddy Piper took off the wall of the pit, suggesting that Roddy painted them himself. Says Piper did really good work. You couldn't even see the numbers. Rim shot for the brain. From the sublime to the ridiculous, Bobby Heenan quips, "You talking about Gorilla Monsoon?" No, he's talking about the Honky Tonk Man. And you talk about two pieces of garbage, meaning Honky Tonk and Jimmy Hart. Bobby Heenan says, "You mean the paintings?" So Heenan on a roll here this week, having some fun anyway. As we move on with the show, and we conclude the month of March, Gorilla Monsoon talking a little bit about St. Patrick's Day and Bobby Heenan's secretary, Miss Betty, as well as perhaps some new staff headed the Brain's way.
What's Miss Betty been doing? How did she celebrate St. Patrick's Day? I know she's into that.
Well, I understand she went out and went to a couple of places to celebrate, but they were packed, and she laid the law down, and she got her front row table right where she wants to sit. You know, being my secretary, that opens the door for a lot of people, you know. And I'm adding to my staff, too.
Oh, yeah? Who are you adding?
You don't know her.
Well, would you like to enlighten us?
Very attractive lady. Very good at shorthand. Dictation.
Most of the people who work
typing.
with you are a little short-handed.
All right, so Miss Betty apparently loves St. Patty's Day. I gathered that much. But Bobby Heenan taking on some new staff, a very attractive lady, by the way. She's good at a lot of things, including shorthand, dictation, and typing. You can read between the lines there. Bobby Heenan having a little fun talking about this new attractive lady being good at shorthand and dictation. Bobby beats the censors every time. And we close out this edition of Primetime Wrestling. One final promo this week. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Outback Jack. I told you guys this was a throwaway episode.
You know, Outback Jack, you've arrived here in the United States in the World Wrestling Federation, and you've made quite a mark for yourself. I know this. As I travel around the World Wrestling Federation, whether it's in New York at Madison Square Garden, at the Sports Arena in L.A., when they come on with that music, that theme of yours, so to speak, Tie Me Kangaroo Down,
Sport,
it really gets to the fans.
Mate, it's such a catchy little tune. You know, you sing that around the pub from time to time. It was brought out by a fella called Rolf Harris, who sang it about 20 years ago. It's sort of like a folk song, you know. We sing it from time to time. It's real good. It's a top little song. It's real catchy. People can snap their fingers to it, clap with it, sing with it, do anything. Whenever you see me come out into the ring, because I'm here for a bit to stay now, I come here to stay for a while. When you see me come out, clap your hands, stamp your feet, do whatever you like, because it's good stuff. It's good value. It lets you know that you're all behind me, and I appreciate that very much.
You know, I've visited that tremendous country of yours many, many times, and I can see where you might miss Australia, but you certainly can't miss the excitement of the World Wrestling Federation.
Mate, there's nothing comes close to it, fair dinkum. The excitement of Madison Square Garden, all the world's greatest wrestling venues, it's a pretty big thing for a fellow like me straight from the scrub. I don't know a great deal about it. It's all big city stuff.
What does bloke mean?
Bloke.
Bloke?
Bloke. Bloke's a fella, you know.
Oh, well, then you're a fellow.
I'm a bloke, yeah.
Yes, but I mean, that's complimentary.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot. Get ready for this, man. You're going to be seeing him in the very near future. He is Outback Jack from Australia.
Good on you, America.
All right, Mean Gene getting a little Aussie info there from Outback. And the primetime exclusive this week, and we touched on this a little bit last week when we talked about house show results and news, but this week on Primetime Wrestling, it's Blackjack Mulligan teaming with Dan Spivey, defeating the team of Salvatore Bellomo and Tiger Chung Lee in 3 minutes, 55 seconds. Mulligan pinning Chung Lee with that flying back elbow. Match was taped back on March 10th in Dayton, Ohio at the Hera Arena. And here we are heading into April, and by the end of April, we know Mulligan's gone, Bellomo's gone, Spivey's already out with a knee injury for the better part of the year, and Tiger Chung Lee, the only active wrestler still competing by the end of April with the WWF. Unbelievable to think about there. And you can also find that match on our YouTube channel as well. As we move on to the weekend and WWF Superstars of Wrestling for April 4th, 1987. All right, in this edition of Superstars, taped March 10th in Dayton, Ohio, Hera Arena. Of course, Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, Bruno Sammartino on commentary. And as we head off to the ring, it's feature match time right away with Hacksaw Jim Duggan taking on the Iron Sheik, the Doctor of Style Slick in his corner. This is the quote-unquote rematch from 2 weeks ago, as the original never actually took place. Remember, Duggan chased the heels off with his 2x4. This time, Slick said that if Duggan will leave his 2x4 at home, then Slick will leave Nikolai Volkoff at home as well. And as the match gets going, we get an insert promo from Hacksaw. Says he can't stand sitting in his easy chair, listening to Iranian and Russian propaganda on TV. He's ready to take anyone on, one-on-one. And as the match gets going, the Sheik attacks Duggan, but Hacksaw comes fighting back and takes over right away, slamming Sheiky down, and the Old Glory knee drop forces Sheik to bail out to the floor. Then once back inside, some miscommunication leads to some sloppy spots and bumps from both guys. Sheiky does manage to take over and pitches Hacksaw outside, where the Slickster nails Duggan in the gut with his cane. Then from out of nowhere, it's Nikolai Volkoff. Volkoff showing up. The Slickster lied. Nikolai was here all along. Never trust the Doctor of Style. As Nikolai grabs the cane from the Slickster and breaks it over the head of Duggan, that bastard. While the Sheik distracts referee Dave Hebner, Duggan begins to bleed from the forehead as Volkoff rolls him back into the ring, but he follows him in for a triple team beating. It's Sheik, Volkoff, and Slick on top of Jim Duggan, causing the immediate disqualification. Duggan going to pick up the win here by DQ in 2 minutes and 54 seconds, and it quickly becomes evident that this was a setup all along. Duggan left the 2x4 behind, but Nikolai clearly picking his spot to interfere. The heels looking for some revenge after being humiliated here a couple weeks ago on TV, and the heels continue the beatdown on poor Duggan until the Killer Bees and a few others arrive to run him off. And a bloodied Hacksaw storms off into the crowd after the match, blood pouring down his head as he climbs into the lower level seating, giving a big ho, and a USA chant begins as a bloody Jim Duggan stomps away. And now we're used to seeing Jim Duggan bleed on WWF TV, sure, but on syndicated WWF television, you don't see that every day. They were clearly trying to get Duggan and this feud over huge, and getting Hacksaw over worked here. This crowd 100% behind Jim Duggan. Unfortunately, it's versus the Sheik, and even worse, Volkoff. And it's time to head off to Update with Craig DeGeorge. He's got some interesting managerial news.
Hi everybody, Craig DeGeorge here with this week's update. The topic, managers. And rumors are circulating around the World Wrestling Federation that a change could be in store. Believe it or not though, Bobby Heenan has apparently kept his nose out of this one, but it appears that Mr. Fuji, the manager of the Magnificent Morocco, is throwing his yen around. Update has learned that Fuji and the Wizard have been secretly meeting for some time, and now they have met our cameras for what is expected to be a major announcement.
Only the twisted, demented mentality of Mr. Fuji has been deemed possible as the future mentor of the big black man from Uganda. There is Kamala. Fuji, continue to explain the passing of the power to you, Fuji. On your glorious way, Fuji, guide him and guide him well. I will.
All right, there it is. Mr. Fuji taking over Kamala and Sika. Now, two questions out of this. Number one, will Fuji be able to communicate his own wizardry to the great Ugandan? And number two, what is next for the Wizard? We'll let you know here on Update. I'm Craig DeGeorge.
Yes, it appears that Mr. Fuji has been throwing his yin around as we head to a pre-recorded video where the Wizard relinquishes his managerial services of Kamala and his handler Kim Chi, apparently selling the rights to Mr. Fuji, along with the power of the tooth of Shaka Khan. So now Kamala, part of Mr. Fuji's group, and he brings along with him the handler Kim Chi because nobody else can control the Ugandan headhunter. And after endless vignettes, we finally saw the debut of Outback Jack, the in-ring debut of Outback Jack on syndicated TV 2 months ago. And since that time, one squash match on Primetime Wrestling. It seems they've went back to the drawing board with old Outback here as we see new vignettes made of Outback Jack's time in America. We see old Jack coming out of the bathroom of his hotel room as he takes a seat on the bed, but the bed's too soft, mate. So he sleeps on the hardwood floor instead.
No worries, mate. I'm Outback Jack.
So we get what felt like months of Outback Jack promos hyping his arrival to the United States. He wrestles one syndicated squash, and we haven't seen him in the ring on syndicated TV since, and now it's back to more Crocodile Dundee-esque, quote-unquote, comedy vignettes. Clearly, this experiment has ended, but somebody forgot to inform poor Outback. As we head back to the ring, it's the Killer Bees in action, taking on the team of Iron Mike Sharp and Jimmy Jack Funk. Right away, we get an insert promo from the Hart Foundation, claiming the Bees aren't worthy of a tag team title shot. The Bees are cheaters with those masks, and nobody likes a cheater. Yeah, baby! Back to the action, the Bees dominate here until Brian Blair, shot into the ropes, takes a knee to the back. from Iron Mike Sharp on the apron, which ultimately leads to a four-way melee as the heels collide center ring. Brian Blair with the old butt. The bee sting on Iron Mike Sharp. 1, 2, but Jimmy Jack Funk in to stop the count, drops an elbow, but Blair moves, and the Funker elbow drops his own partner, Mike Sharp. Then from behind, Brian Blair Atomic drops Iron Shark into the Jim Brunzell dropkick. Blair makes the cover and gets the win for the Bees, 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Usually we're accustomed to seeing the Bees go about 5 minutes out here. Quicker Bees squash than usual this week, and I ain't complaining. And it's about that time. We're heading off to Mean Gene Okerlund, standing by with the Outlaw Ron Bass. He's going to be talking Blackjack Mulligan.
You know, there is a feud right now that exists in the World Wrestling Federation between a couple of Texans. You're going to be hearing a great deal more about it in the weeks to come. Outlaw Ron Bass from Houston, Texas. Come on in, sir. Welcome back. Good to see you again. But apparently, somewhere along the line, you and Blackjack Mulligan have formed some rather ill opinions of each other. Is there any truth to that?
Any truth to it? There can't be anything but the truth to it. Mr. Blackjack Mulligan, there's only two things in life that make me real happy. And one of them is getting you in the ring and beating you all over the ring, brother. Hurting you and making you suffer. And the other thing is getting paid for it. But let me tell you something, Mr. Mulligan. You come out here and you defame the state of Texas. You come out here and you say, yeah, I'm what Texas is all about. Yeah, follow me and do what I do, kids. Exactly what's going to happen is Mr. Blackjack Mulligan, they're going to ring the bell, and you're going to be looking on the other side of the ring, and the big outlaw's going to be standing there. Then I'm going to think back over the years how our families have been fighting and how the feud has been building and how the things have been hurt and people have been mutilated, I guess you could say, because, you know, I'm not above breaking bones. I'm not above, reaching in there and tearing that nose just a little bit. I'm not above breaking rules. I ain't above doing anything I got to do to win. And Mr. Blackjack Mulligan, you better get used to it because the big outlaw, he's here to ride herd for a long time. And you be looking for me, son, because I guarantee you, I'm not going to be hard to find.
All right, the Outlaw has arrived in the WWF. He wants to prove who the real Texan is, looking to feud with old Blackjack Mulligan, but we've said it 1,000 times at this point. Blackjack on his way out the door, and we head back to the ring. Nikolai Volkoff in action. Hey, wait a minute. Slick promised to leave Volkoff at home, but yet he was slated for a match here on this episode? Duggan should have looked into this more thoroughly. It is Nikolai Volkoff with Slick and the Iron Sheik in his corner, taking on Rick Hunter here. In pre-match, Nikolai attempts to sing the Russian national anthem, but he's attacked by Hunter. Ricky Hunter attacks Nikolai Volkoff before he can sing the national anthem. And it doesn't last long before Hunter is triple teamed and tossed to the floor by all three heels. Nikolai then tries to sing for a second time when a bloody and bandaged Hacksaw Duggan returns to the ring for some revenge. And this time Duggan brings with him his trusty 2x4. And the wooden equalizer sends the heels running off and down the aisle once again as Duggan takes the microphone. He says they can beat him down, but he will not quit. Now, obviously, the match here with Ricky Hunter, a no contest. But Duggan and the USA chant very over with this crowd here. Hacksaw getting over at a rapid pace with the WWF fans. And that feud and that storyline will continue on. But for right now, it's back to Mean Gene Okerlund, this time talking to one of the many exciting tag teams currently here in the WWF. Mean Gene standing by with Haku and Tama, the Islanders.
You know, I have alluded to the red-hot tag team situation here in the World Wrestling Federation. I'd like to start, however, with this rather exciting duel. Coming from the South Pacific, they are known as the Islanders. They are Tama and Haku. And gentlemen, when I say this tag team situation, Haku is red hot, it indeed is that.
Gene, exactly right. You were down here from down under. You know, when we're proud from Tonga, all the way from Tonga, South Pacific. And we're proud because the people out there backing up. And we're here to do our best and be proud of representing the people of Tonga in America. You know, being in America is a wonderful country. We're proud of America too. But we're here because of championship. We're looking forward to make the people of Tonga really proud of these two gentlemen here.
All right, thank you very much, Haku. Very strong feelings and tremendous loyalty to the people of the South Pacific.
Well, you know me, Gene, everybody back home where me and my partner come from, the South Pacific, the most beautiful place you can go to. We come from a real small island like this. And all my people are so proud of me and my partner. And I hope all the American peoples are proud of the Islanders too. Because once we're trying to go for the tag team champion. That's everybody's dream, Ming.
That's everybody's goal.
Everybody's goal is to try to go for the tag team belts. Well, let me tell the people out there watching us right now on Nation TV. Everybody's seen the Islanders in action, and everybody's seen us beat the Hart Foundation. Everybody knows. Right, brother?
All right. I thank you very much, gentlemen. It is Tama and Haku, the Islanders from the beautiful South Pacific. Certainly one of the premier tag teams here in the World Wrestling Federation. Thanks, guys.
Well, not the best on the mic, but they can really fuck you up in the ring, that's for sure. The Islanders going to see better days here in 1987. As we head back to the ring, Jake the Snake Roberts taking on the Raider. And right away, we get an insert promo from the Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Hart. Honky says Jake brings the snake to the ring, so now Honky is going to start bringing his guitar to the ring. Oh, shit. It's on now. Honky Tonk Man going to start bringing a guitar to ringside. And as the match gets going, the Raider actually jumps the snake at the bell and actually dominates the entire match. While on commentary, Jesse Ventura spends the entire match eating and shilling the brand new WWF ice cream bars, even offering Vince a bite, which he does not take. Carbs, pal. And as I said, the Raider dominates the match. Very unusual there. Finally, Jake lures the Raider out to the floor, has him chase him around ringside, back into the ring where the Raider runs right into a knee lift and the DDT. 2 moves by Jake the Snake Roberts in this entire match, and that's all she wrote. The Snake picking up the win, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And post-match, the Raider also meets the likes of Damien. And let the shilling continue. Jesse Ventura wasn't enough. After the matchup, we get a vignette of George the Animal Steel now snacking on the WWF ice cream bars. Ice cream, good. And it's back to the ring. More action as Axe and Smash Demolition still accompanied by luscious Johnny V taking on the team of Siviafi and Bullet? Brad Reagans? Well, I've never heard that one before. Brad Reagans introduced as Bullet Brad here for this matchup. A new one for me, that's for sure. It's just too bad Reagans in this position as a jobber to the stars. But the demo, still with that awesome music, pre-lyrics, but still the same beat. And I did point out luscious Johnny V still with the Demolition here, but not for long. We get an insert promo from Johnny V here. He admits there's dissension in the Dream Team. Well, duh, Johnny, it is after WrestleMania. But there's no dissension in Demolition. And the babyfaces here do their best to control early on, but it turns out more or less to be them trying to counter the Demolition's next moves. Doesn't work out too well. Siviafi tries a monkey flip on Smash, but eats an inverted atomic drop instead. And then it's the Demolition decapitation. Picks up the quick win in just 1 minute and 33 seconds. As we're off to the WrestleMania 3 report. It's the fallout from WrestleMania 3. Mean Gene recapping the event, giving us the results to every match. And then we're off to part 1 of the Ken Patera story here. All parts of the Ken Patera story now available on our YouTube channel as well. Gene Okerlund working overtime this week, voicing the video here. The former Olympian, the former weightlifting champion, one of the all-time greats in professional wrestling is Ken Patera. But it was his manager, Bobby Heenan's bad influences that cost Patera the past 2 years in prison. So are we to believe that Bobby Heenan got Ken Patera hooked on McDonald's cheeseburgers? Gotta blame somebody. Not a whole lot here this week in part 1 of the Ken Patera story, just setting the foundation for some fun vignettes to come. And it's back to the ring as we close out this week's edition of Superstars, the King, Harley Race. Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner taking on Don Driggers here. As we kick things off, it's an insert promo from the King, who reminds us he's still the King after WrestleMania 3. And it's just another Harley Race quickie here. We see the patented race knee drop, then he busts out a double underhook suplex. Hadn't seen him use that here before in the WWF. And the Fisherman suplex, no bridge, picks up the win in just 1 minute and 16 seconds. Post-match, Driggers forced to bow and kneel before the King. And then the King, before he walks off, makes sure that he knees Driggers right in the face. I wrote LOL, good stuff there from the King. And yet another quick and fun squash. Harley set to be the next challenger for WWF champion Hulk Hogan on the house shows. So staying relevant here on TV with these quick squashes as we head on to Wrestling Challenge for April 5th, tape back March 11th, Columbus, Ohio at the Ohio Center. It's Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary. And it's off to the ring for the Islanders, taking on the team of Iron Mike Sharp and Al Navarro. On commentary, Bobby claims the names Haku and Tama mean dumb and stupid. and how he'd change his mind in the near future. Gorilla says they have their sights set on the tag team titles, and Bobby Heenan responds in a pair of shoes. Bobby Heenan on a roll early this week. As we get an insert promo from the Islanders, they are the pride of the Pacific, and they can beat the Hart Foundation for the belts, and they warned Danny Davis about interfering again. Remember the match we saw on TV several weeks ago? It was the Harts and the Islanders. Danny Davis did interfere, shoving Tama off the top rope, costing them the win. But back to the action here. Quick tags by the Islanders. Solid and fluid separate and double team moves here. And Haku with a nasty chop and an enziguri on Navarro. Haku then with a suplex on Al Navarro. Then Tama off the top rope with a big splash. Haku drop kicks Mike Sharp from interfering. And Tama will pick up the win, 3 minutes and 53 seconds. And there's been some emphasis on TV here this weekend for the Islanders as potential title challengers. And as I was watching this match, I had to note, even though he didn't do the job here, it was funny seeing Mike Sharp in this match with Tama, because Sharp was fired from the WWF back in like 84 for refusing to job to Tama, then called the Tonga Kid, who was still a couple weeks shy of his 19th birthday back in 1984. And yes, that makes Tama a whopping 21 years old here in 1987. Talk about a prodigy early in his career as we're off to Wrestler's Rebuttal. Craig DeGeorge standing by with the Macho Man Randy Savage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with me right now is Randy Macho Man Savage, and you look a bit irate.
You look a bit irate, man. If you can just imagine the intensity that's gonna be where I used to be, and now there's a big difference. Yeah, I'm talking no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm talking you, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, President Jack Tunney. If you want to put on some pink tights and go against the Macho Man Randy Savage, you're going to see the difference. Oh, yeah. You're going to see the difference.
All right, and the Macho Man irate over losing his Intercontinental title to the Dragon. No more Mr. Nice Guy. No, never. At this point, we also get a replay of the Ken Patera Story Part 1. Only now we get to hear Heenan's take here on commentary and Wrestling Challenge, and even more of that coming up on Primetime. And it's back to the ring, the Honky Tonk Man, Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on CV Afi as we get an insert promo from Honky Tonk, once again reiterating that he's going to start bringing the guitar to the ring, supposedly to counteract Damien, but we all know better. Honky dominates from the start here, crowd chant of "We want Jake" throughout the matchup, allowing Afi to get in some brief offense. Honky, though, counters a monkey flip in the corner by holding the ropes, and Afi goes flying backwards, landing on the back of his head, and it's shake, rattle, and roll time. Honky Tonk Man picking up the win with the neckbreaker in 2 minutes and 46 seconds, and the Honky Tonk Man dancing and visibly doing an atrocious job of pretending to play the guitar with even more heel heat by the week. As we're now off to Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with one of the favorites here, or so I'm told, it's Outback Jack.
All right, fans, stay tuned. We're going to get you back up into the ring in just a moment or two for more exciting World Wrestling Federation action. I've got to bring in, if I may, from Humpty Doo in the Northern Territories of Australia, my guest at this time, Outback Jack. Outback, welcome to the good old US of A and the World Wrestling Federation, sir.
Thanks, mate. Good on you. Good on you. Hasn't it been a marvelous week, eh?
It has indeed, and apparently things are agreeing with you. You're looking just great.
Well, mate, I tell you what it is. The Hulkster's been looking after me. I was a little bit chubby when I first lobbed here, see. I've been eating too many pies and having a few too many beers, you know. So I've been on his diet, see, with these vitamins and all this training and stuff. Dropped a little bit of weight, so now I'm just a little bit under 300 pounds.
If you get on a Hulkster's program, you'll be breaking a little less bread and certainly be working out a lot more, getting in that gym and pumping that iron.
Absolutely.
Iron, the weights, you know what I mean.
Oh, throwing a few weight, yeah, easy as pie, mate.
I must say, Outback Jack, the tremendous abundance of a talent that we have here in the World Wrestling Federation these days is very, very impressive, and I'm certain many names impress you.
Oh, mate, they all do. They're all, mate, it's the collection of the stars from all over the world, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Well, I'm not a star, but I'm just here just because it's good.
No, but you know what you prove beyond any shadow of a doubt, Outback Jack, that the World Wrestling Federation truly is worldwide. We have great talent that comes to us from all four corners of the globe.
Well, mate, it's worldwide, isn't it? It's fantastic. It's marvelous. It's great. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll give you the tip.
I'll tell you what do you think you're playing with a kangaroo? That's an old American saying. You think you're playing with sheep? You ever heard that before?
No, mate, I haven't.
Well, here again, I can enlighten you to some of the things that happen in this country.
Been out in the sun too long, Gene, you have, mate. I don't quite follow you there, Digger.
Well, no, it's not that big a deal. Outback Jack, it certainly is a privilege and a pleasure for us to have you as part of the World Wrestling Federation. And that's right.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I like that.
That's it. See ya.
And look out. Outback Jack says he's been working out with Hulk Hogan, brother. And back to the ring, it's Billy Jack Haynes taking on the Gladiator. He was Rick Hunter's on Superstars, the Gladiator here on Challenge, and we get an insert promo right away with Slick and the Natural Butch Reed. Reed says that Haynes is strong, but he lacks being a natural. Reed versus Haynes? Did I miss something here? It's a really odd insert promo. No mention of Hercules either, even though they're doing the chain matches between Haynes and Hercules. Just really weird placement for that Butch Reed promo. We also learn on commentary in this match that the WWF magazine is going monthly. Get ready to start picking up the WWF magazine on newsstands everywhere each and every month. Back to the action, the Gladiator hammers on Billy Jack early, but Haynes begins to no-sell and eats the Masked Man alive before locking in the full Nelson and picking up the submission win in just 1 minute and 42 seconds. Billy Jack Haynes and his feud with Hercules will continue. As we're off to yet another promo, talk about slowly getting back into things. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Paul Roma.
All right, stay tuned for more exciting World Wrestling Federation action. On the heels of WrestleMania, the World Wrestling Federation once again beginning to tour the United States and actually tour the entire world. We reach all 4 corners of the globe. As a matter of fact, the first time I saw my guest at this time in action happened to be down under in Australia. May I bring in from Long Island, New York. He's a great one. He's going to be a great star in the future here in the World Wrestling Federation, Paul Roman. Paul, since 2.5, 3 years ago that I saw you in Australia, you've come a long, long way.
Thank you, Gene. I've been working really, really hard, and the people have been behind me, and that's really important to me.
You know, you've got to, watch and observe these great superstars that we see in the World Wrestling Federation. You've gotten into the combat zone a time or two, and right now I would have to imagine, Paul Roma, that you're looking for even bigger and better competition. That's the only way you can go up.
Well, yeah, that's true. And, in the World Wrestling Federation, that's all there is bigger and better competition. And if I want to climb that plateau and, reach the top of that mountain to that peak, I got to get better competition.
I made the prediction 2.5, 3 years ago that sooner or later, one day it would happen, that Paul Roma would be a champion in the World Wrestling Federation, and I strongly still believe that.
Well, thank you, Gene. That's a big thought, and that's a really big, giant step. But, again, I got to take it step by step and, slowly climb that ladder and see what it brings, what the future brings. And
you look like you're in great shape. Are you working with the iron quite a bit, Paul?
Yeah, every day, 6 days a week. I get a little bit of rest.
Are you into the reps, or do you go for the big weight?
Both. Whatever keeps me in shape.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's obviously working for you, Paul Roma. And as I said before, I predict bigger and better things for you here in the World Wrestling Federation.
Thank you, Gene.
He's going to be a superstar, I guarantee you that. Keep an eye on this young man. From Long Island, New York, he is Paul Roma. Fans, stay tuned. We're right back.
And Mean Gene referring to Roma there as a future champion. Well, if you count WCW, Gene ain't wrong. Although if you want my opinion, Power and Glory were screwed. And it's back to the action yet again. The Ugandan headhunter, the mighty Kamala, with his handler Kim Chi and his new manager, Mr. Fuji, in his corner, taking on Sam Cody. Holy shit, Sam Cody in the WWF? Trained by Crusher Verdue. How's that for a fun fact? Is Sam Cody, better known as a job guy for WCW, Sam Cody here in the WWF in 1987. And as the match gets going, we get an insert promo from the Wizard and Mr. Fuji. The Wizard, King Curtis Iakea, says that it was the spirit of the Grand Wizard who told him to give Mr. Fuji the power of Shaka Khan, or Shakan here as he says, so that Fuji may guide Kamala from here on out. Fuji now the manager of Kamala. And let's not forget Sika as well, though they're not really mentioning Sika here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this is also the in-ring debut of Green Kamala. Kamala now rocking that yellow and bright green face paint, body paint, really cool looking stuff there. I posted several pictures on social media and posted a couple matches, I believe, on YouTube as well. So we get a new look Kamala along with his new manager, Mr. Fuji, in a pretty quick match. Kamala picks up the win after a big splash and then follows that with a top rope splash on poor Sam Cody to pick up the win in just 1 minute and 55 seconds. And post-match, Kamala wants to do it again, but Kim Chi and Fuji hold him back. while Sam Cody does a stretcher job here, but there's really nothing set in stone for Kamala, storyline-wise right now. I hope that changes, and maybe it would have if Duggan had stuck around long enough. As we're off to another edition of the Snake Pit. This week, Jake the Snake Roberts' guest, Blackjack Mulligan. And you guys might assume that old Blackjack's going to talk about his arch nemesis, Outlaw Ron Bass. Well, you'd assume wrong. Mulligan instead promised Jake a big surprise, and he brings it out with him. Are you guys ready for this? WWF ice cream bars. Another shameless shill here. Jake says he thought ice cream was just for kids, but Mulligan assures Roberts that real men eat ice cream. I can't make this shit up, guys. And Mulligan has ice cream bars everywhere. They're in his vest, in the back pocket of his jeans, even in his cowboy hat. Takes off his cowboy hat and pulls out an ice cream bar. Jake then eats one himself and agrees with Mulligan. These things are damn good. And both men leave the snake pit eating ice cream. Yes, this really happened, guys. And my notes for this one were, well, I didn't see that coming. I figured this would be about Ron Bass, but why discuss a feud when you've got merchandise to shamelessly shill instead? Yet another reason I'm not shocked that Mulligan is all but gone from the WWF at this point. A waste of a snake pit segment, selling the ice cream bars, but gotta make your money. It's all about the merch. And it would have made perfect sense for Mulligan to talk about Bass, because as we head back to the ring, it is the Outlaw Ron Bass in the ring, taking on Joe Murdo here, as Gorilla and Bobby talk Bass's supposed feud with Blackjack Mulligan. You know, the feud that's so intense that Blackjack just ignored it in the prior segment in order to shill ice cream. And speaking of ice cream, it appears that Gorillas like ice cream as well, with some peanut butter pie, of course. And of course, the Mulligan-Bass feud never really materializes. Mulligan essentially gone, leaving Bass to flounder outside of a brief encounter with JYD and that thing he does with Beefcake next year. Meanwhile, the Outlaw's still using Mulligan's jumping back elbow for his finisher here, though, picking up the win over Murdo in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Once again, we're treated to the WrestleMania 3 recap with Mean Gene Okerlund, and then, yes, another Outback Jack vignette. Yes, another Crocodile Dundee-like comedy vignette. This time, old Outback wants to cool off after a long 20-mile walk, mate, or so he says. Outback trying to take a quick dip in the harbor, but a police officer puts a stop to that pretty fast. Unfortunately, Jack, that's against the law here in the States.
No worries, mate. I'm Outback Jack.
And it's back to the ring. Greg the Hammer Valentine going one-on-one with Jerry Allen here. And in the Hammer's corner, luscious Johnny V and Dino Bravo. Very interesting. Remember, this was taped before WrestleMania. Bravo back to brunette here for this old set of tapings. As we get an insert promo here from Brutus Beefcake, he says the new Dream Team's nightmare is about to begin. So while this match was taped before the Dream Team split up, they're acknowledging the storylines of WrestleMania. As the match gets going, Greg hammers Allen early but misses an elbow drop on the mat. Allen on top with a monkey flip, but Allen moving slower than usual here and screws up a snapmare. How do you screw up a snapmare? Allen tries another monkey flip, but eats an inverted atomic drop instead, and the Hammer with the lazy suplex into the slam, and a figure four leg lock picks up the win. 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Gorilla Monsoon even putting over the leg lock by mentioning it once put out Chief Jay Strongbow, dropping a name from the past. And my only notes here after the match was Jerry Allen looks slower than usual and sloppy here this week. I don't really know what was going on with that. But it's promo time as we head off to Mean Gene Okerlund, standing by with Jimmy Hart and the newest member of the Hart Foundation. It's Dangerous Danny Davis.
Special guest of mine, man that played a big part in WrestleMania 3, one of the premier managers certainly in the World Wrestling Federation today. He's got a ton of talent. I'm talking about the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. I'm sorry. You have me, just looking at that sport coat upsets me, Jimmy Hart.
You know what? It sounds like an elephant sitting on your tongue. Get my name right. It's Jimmy Hart, not what you said, clown.
Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
That's right, baby, and don't forget it either. You know what a big year 87 is going to be for the Hart Foundation.
Let's not forget 1987. I want to talk about these clothes here from 1954.
Oh, you know what? 10,000 comedians out of work, and you're trying to... You wouldn't say that if the Hart Foundation or maybe Dangerous Danny Davis is with... Look at this, baby.
Danny Davis, welcome aboard.
Mr. Okerlund.
So good to see you again. You're looking very trim, sir.
Thank you.
You know, I don't think it's any secret. You were 86th by the World Wrestling Federation as a referee. You were terminated by President Jack Tunney. You're glad?
It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
You know the reason you were terminated?
I don't care about the reason
You know the reason you were terminated?
Let me tell you something. I'm ready to take on anybody in the WWF. Do you understand that? Do you think Jimmy Hart would have taken my contract if he wasn't confident in me?
Do I think so?
That's right.
I think this guy do anything for a buck, to tell you the truth, Davis.
I'm ready to take on anybody. Coco Beware.
Coco Beware.
I think you're going to be first to find out.
Sit, baby, tell it.
And then from there, Jimmy Hart has all open contracts for me to wrestle in tag teams.
Wait a minute. One thing at a time, please. Coco Beware. You're not just going to dispense with this man.
Oh, yes, I am.
You're a referee. I mean, what do you know about wrestling?
I'm just going to dispense with them one after another and prove to you and everybody else that Jimmy Hart has got a diamond in the rough.
You know, I don't want to bring up a sore subject, Jimmy Hart.
But you are anyhow, right?
No, the reason this man was terminated by the World Wrestling Federation, the reason he was fired, he was 86th. Because of incompetence. The man was totally incompetent of officiating, of refereeing a match.
This man is cool, cocky, and confident. We have open contracts, like he said. We don't care if it's six-man tags for the Hearts and Dangerous Danny Davis. We don't care if it's against Coco Ware, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Bring them all, line them all up. Like I said, this is the new era in the Hart Foundation. Dangerous Danny Davis is going to play a big, big, big part of it.
You know, you dress everybody in your family in the foundation. You dress
Stop making fun of the way he dresses.
That's right.
Hey, listen, you're no great shakes.
More in clothes than you do all week.
Hey,
on food.
On food.
One word from me and this guy will knock your lights out, punk.
You couldn't do that.
Oh, what do you mean?
Okay. Wait a minute. I don't want to get involved in this. I've got nothing against Danny Davis. Cool him down. Thank you very much, Jimmy Hart. Danny Davis, he's got the word out right now. He's going to take on any and all comers here at the World Wrestling Federation, including Coco Beware.
All right, and Davis going to work his way up the ladder. So calling out Coco Beware as his first real one-on-one competition here. Unfortunately for Davis, that doesn't really change too much over the course of the remainder of the year. As we move on to the next day, Primetime Wrestling for April 6th, it's Gorilla Monsoon and a very dejected Bobby the Brain Heenan.
I'm Gorilla Monsoon.
I'm Bobby the Brain Heenan.
You get a little bit out of voice right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Primetime Wrestling, where we feature the superstars of the World Wrestling Federation, and WrestleMania 3 is history, and it was indeed a classic. All kinds of records were broken. Some things happened that weren't to the liking of Bobby the Brain Heenan, I'm sure. An all-time sporting event record was made in the Silverdome, Pontiac, Michigan, with in excess of 93,000 people on hand. Hats off indeed to the World Wrestling Federation. Your
Let's
record,
go to the first match.
Well, it's not time to go. Your record is not too hot for WrestleMania 3, Brain.
You think I'm going to stand out here and debate you anymore? Or anybody else I've been talking to? I've been talking now for a week. No one will listen to me.
Understand, there's several cases of champagne for sale, very cheap.
You can have it.
Oh, great. That's great. We can continue the celebration party of the Hulkster. And I also want to inform you that you have a bill pending, $37,000, I believe, is the figure that you owe for the belt that you had forced the World Wrestling Federation to make that really wasn't necessary.
You got any salt on you? Anybody got any salt here? You can just rub it in all the wounds in my back.
Hart Foundation, our feature this week here on Primetime Wrestling against the Rouge. Well, it's not time to go to the match yet.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
You're not talking to me anymore. We're going to see a whole lot of interesting people this week.
And Bobby's voice is seemingly gone there. He apparently owes $37,000 to the WWF for the special world title belt, the giant-sized title belt that he demanded be made. Gorilla really rubbing the salt into the wounds this week on poor Bobby Heenan. $37,000. Did he get to keep the belt? The show continues on. We see a primetime exclusive featuring Blackjack Mulligan defeating Tiger Chung Lee again this week, one-on-one competition. Mulligan scoring the win, 3 minutes, 21 seconds, once again with that flying back elbow. Should mention that referee here, Rita Marie. And even more interesting, Bobby Heenan and Johnny V are the ones on commentary for the bout. This match taped all the way back February 17th, Springfield, Massachusetts at the Civic Center. And as we come out of the Mulligan match, Bobby Heenan has a response to Gorilla Monsoon, who wants to discuss King Kong Bundy's heinous act against Little Beaver at WrestleMania.
As far as I'm concerned, you're about ready to be derailed pretty soon. Bobby. There's that arm back.
An awesome individual to have to deal with here in the World Wrestling Federation, Blackjack Mulligan. He's going to be looking to challenge guys like King Kong Bundy, who are coming under some heavy scrutiny right now from the World Wrestling Federations for some of the actions that he took in part of WrestleMania 3.
Squashed a midget, so what?
Yeah. What kind of an individual would do that? What kind of a warped mind does it take to do something like that?
He was told to do that.
He was told by you, right? Admit it.
Yes.
Well, your name's going to be involved there as well.
And I'm awful upset with him.
Oh, I'm sure you are, yeah.
Because a couple midgets left on their own power.
All 4 midgets left. With
but not little Beaver.
Hillbilly Jim.
Yeah, but he had to carry little Beaver out.
Well, not one of them that went out there with your man, King Kong Bundy, decided to return.
All right, Bobby's very nonchalant response. He squashed the midget, so what? If anything, Heenan a little perturbed here that Bundy left some of the midgets standing. Oh, Bobby. And speaking of the brain, as Primetime continues on, he continues to discuss WrestleMania 3 and in his mind, why every member of the Heenan family won their match at the big event.
This is the time what we're going to do it anyway. We're going to show everybody at home our special WrestleMania report that's coming up. And the only one that really shined for you, Brain, was, didn't really shine, but the King. King was victorious. He got crowned at the end, but...
They all shined for me.
They did.
And I can explain to you and these humanoids out there why, but I doubt if you'd pay any attention.
Oh, the floor is yours.
Billy Jack, the only reason that match was declared no contest is because...
It wasn't declared a no contest.
They're both counted out. That's no contest to me.
It was a double count out.
Right. But Billy Jack refused to let Hercules back into the ring. That's the only thing that saved him. The King won his match, pinned the man right in the middle. And if it wasn't for the lousy, incompetent referee we had, Andre'd be the world champion right now. And you know it. Over 3 million people know it. I'm not going to get into that.
Let's go to the special report.
Get my blood pressure up.
How true the brain indeed is. What a tremendous report. I can imagine, Bobby, you sitting back in the dressing room area when Ricky the Dragon Steamboat took the Intercontinental title away from the Macho Man, and the thought must have went through your mind, will lightning strike twice here in the Silverdome?
Well, you got an all-time record.
Yeah, 93
attendance.
plus.
You got all-time record for people watching in closed circuits and pay-per-view.
Right.
You got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat becoming the Intercontinental Champion. Who would have thought? I would have, but not you, that Harvey Race would have pinned the Junkyard Dog in the middle. But it happened.
It happened.
Everything was on a roll for me.
Just didn't roll long enough, right?
The officiating in that match was the poorest I've ever seen in my life. The young referee was completely intimidated by Hulk Hogan. He was scared to make a call. At the beginning of the match, did he not count to 3 with Hulk Hogan's shoulders down?
Well, no,
he went
on the
1,
3 count, the shoulder wasn't down.
3, but he hit the mat with his hand.
He did hit the mat,
Then
yes.
I could see panic hit him. When he looked into Hogan's eyes and Hogan looked at him, he realized there was a new champion, Andre the Giant. He turned and he said, "No, Hogan, your shoulders were up that far."
They were.
But his hands were shaking like that. His hands were shaking. He didn't want to make a decision. He wasn't man enough. You didn't put a man in there to make a decision. So I go down the toilet, and everything I work for, stick WrestleMania right in the garbage can as far as I'm concerned.
I can't believe you're blaming the official. I can't believe you're blaming
You admitted he counted to 3.
All right, so we already heard Bobby explain in the past, actually explained at WrestleMania, why all of his men were victorious on the undercard. He does it here again on this episode of Primetime, but he also exclaims now that Andre was also successful. If it wasn't for that lousy referee, Joey Morella, costing Andre the match. You see, Giant got the win nearly just a minute into the match with Hulk Hogan in that failed attempt at the body slam. Heenan says he saw Morella count 3, but the referee was intimidated by Hulk Hogan and wouldn't call for the bell. So Bobby insisting that Andre did win the match and was simply screwed. So all of the Heenan family undefeated at WrestleMania. Not sure that's what it shows in the record books, but in Bobby's mind, it makes sense. But soon enough, Bobby Heenan going to learn he's going to have more issues than just Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, because slated to be released from prison in the upcoming days is Ken Patera. And as we come back out of the Ken Patera Story vignette here on Primetime, we hear comments from the Brain.
Not only Ken Patera, but a whole lot of other guys. Boy, everybody he touches goes right down the tubes.
Who is putting this program together? You're just going to bury me the whole day? You're going to accuse me of everything that's happened in this world that went wrong?
I don't know. I can relate to Ken Patera and what he did here in the World Wrestling Federation. Kenny was directly
599.
Directly responsible for me retiring from the world of professional wrestling. In the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Hey, let me tell you something about Ken Patera now. All these accolades you're showing in the newspapers, everything he did, that was all amateur garbage. Anybody can do amateur garbage. Oh. It's professional that makes you.
You're going to wear your trophies.
I made him a professional.
You're going to wear your medals next week, right?
I don't need medals. I got me to answer to, and me for you people to see. Patera, don't blame me for nothing, 59919.
Coming up.
Don't blame me for nothing,
The Honky Tonk Man.
License plate maker.
Heenan talking Patera's amateur garbage. Not really putting him over as a pro here, referring to him as 59919. I wrote LOL, so deliberate in everything he's saying here. I love that Bobby Heenan even gives Patera a prison number here, 59919. Gorilla says you better believe this is only the beginning. And if you guys can't already tell, this is going to be some fun conversation here from Bobby Heenan every week as we await the return of Ken Patera to the ring. And speaking of the ring, we head back to the ring for yet another exclusive also on our YouTube channel. It's the Honky Tonk Man, pinning the Birdman Koko Beware, 10 minutes, 45 seconds. Jimmy Hart grabbing Koko's leg as he attempted to suplex Honky back in the ring. Hart tripping Koko up, Honky falling on top, stealing the win there, pinning Koko Beware. The match also taped March 10th, Dayton, Ohio at the Hera Arena. As we head back into the studio, Bobby Heenan questions Gorilla Monsoon. How did he like all of the celebrities that attended WrestleMania 3?
I think you need glasses, is what I think.
Don't take yours off and set them down. They start a fire.
Well, that may be true. My eyesight leaves a lot to be desired.
And then you're knocking me? You admit you can't even see a wall. Now you're knocking me.
Well, I can see what's good on, when we have good equipment and everything, as we did in WrestleMania 3. The pictures were all excellent. I understand the reports of that.
How does it feel working with some top-class talent?
Talk about class. Mary Hart, just a super individual, super entertainer, a lovely, talented lady.
She called me Weasel.
Well, so what? Everybody else does. And my man, Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, and I understand Alice Cooper. I wasn't around Alice very much, but I understand that he's a very personable individual and did a tremendous job.
What about Aretha Franklin?
Well, that's another story we'll get to perhaps at another time. Aretha, in my opinion, left a lot to be desired. I'll get into that deeper at another time. Right now, we're going to go to Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, along with Mean Gene.
No, I don't want to see Duggan.
And Monsoon seemed to have a great time, loved Mary Hart. Bob Uecker was a blast. He didn't get to spend a lot of time around Alice Cooper, but from what he understood, he was a pretty approachable guy. But then, Gorilla left somebody off that list and Bobby Heenan calls him out on it. What about Aretha Franklin? Well, that's another story. She left a lot to be desired, says Monsoon. He says he'll get into it at a later date, but he never really does, unfortunately. Now, the story going round is Gorilla actually asked, or maybe some of his family asked for autographs, and she turned it down. That's just one of the stories I've heard. Nevertheless, was it Aretha playing diva? I don't really know, but Gorilla Monsoon lets her have it right here on Primetime. The babyface Monsoon, Aretha Franklin left a lot to be desired. Wow. As the show goes on, it's interview time with, you got it, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
The one thing that I personally like is a good, true, red-blooded American, somebody that will fight for the cause, so to speak. And that was demonstrated recently by my guest at this time. From Glens Falls, New York, he is Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Left, right, left. Hey, Gino, sometimes I go down to the local tavern, and I'm sitting there on a stool, sipping on a light, maybe drinking an old number 7, and up there in the corner on the TV screen, you turn on WWF Wrestling, and what do you got? You got some Russian out there bellowing his national anthem. You got some Iranian running around waving his Iranian flag. Well, I looked at the guy next to me, and he said, I don't like that. And I said, Hacksaw Jim Duggan doesn't like that. So I told the Russian, anytime Hacksaw Jim Duggan is in the same building, the same city, or the same state, you're not going to walk out on USA soil, you're not going to hold that Russian flag high, and you're not going to sing that national anthem, because I'm going to come right out them back doors snorting and sweating and spitting and doing what I do best, and that's beating people up. Of course, Gene,
Excuse me.
You go right ahead.
You know, the other day, I was in there battling with that Iranian Sheik, and old Slickster had to come give me a quick shot with that cane. And then Volkoff came down and busted it over my head, busted me open like a ripe tomato. Well, old Hacksaw was down. I was seeing stars. I was seeing crimson. And something in the back of my mind said, maybe you should quit. But quitting is not in Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So they had some people come down and run those two off. And they bandaged me up like 19 or 1776. And I was in the back. What did I hear? What did I hear? That Russian national anthem. I picked up my 2x4 and I took care of business. You guys are going down, tough guy.
Watch out for this guy. He is on a roll right now. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
So we're supposed to assume that Hacksaw was sitting at a bar, sipping on some Jack Daniels, watching the WWF, and that's what brought him here. He doesn't like that foreign shit, tough guy. Hacksaw says he's going to come out the bar doors snorting. Somehow I don't doubt that. Jim Duggan made his way to the WWF. He's going to make it right here. And even though this is the World Wrestling Federation, apparently Hacksaw, he thinks it's the American Wrestling Federation as he talks his issues there with the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff. Duggan's so awesome to watch in the Mid-South and the UWF, but it's interesting how quickly he's able to embrace the world of the WWF as well. And I know Duggan had been here back at the beginning of the 80s on the undercard, but it's safe to say he's getting a full-blown push here upon arriving in 1987. We'll have to see how it goes. Also on this episode of Primetime Wrestling is the Outlaw Ron Bass over Salvatore Bellomo with his own version of the flying back elbow. Bass picking up the win over Bellomo in 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Taped February 16th, New Haven, Connecticut at the Coliseum. And again, most of these exclusives are located on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. But Primetime goes on. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Sika, the Wild Samoan, Kamala, along with his handler Kimchi, and their brand new manager, Mr. Fuji.
To go to a special interview with Kimchi, another beauty of an individual, along with Kamala and the new manager, Fuji.
Bobby Heenan, Gorilla Monsoon, I thank you. We're going to get you back to more Primetime here in just a moment or two. One of the wildest transactions, business transactions, actually, that has taken place in the World Wrestling Federation. Come on, Sika, come on in. The big man from the South Pacific. Mr. Fuji, I don't know how you did it, but now it's a done deal. You've acquired the services of Sika and Kamala and Kimchi from the Wizard.
Yes.
What did it cost?
I must not disclose money, but it is friendship. And I have the tooth. The tooth
of the Chaka Khan.
Chaka Khan is right. And they have very good power. They have voodoo power.
Look at this man. How are you going to handle him?
I will take care of myself.
Oh, my word.
Here am I. I have from Uganda, Kamala, and Kimchi, who will control him.
Wait a minute, Mr. Fuji. I've got to ask you a question.
Yes.
You've got Sika, you've got Kamala. Are we going to be seeing these two men now as a tag? Oh, he took the mask off.
You will see them in single and then there's in tag as well. I have a black man from Uganda, Africa. And he does not forget what white man has done to them. And he loves white men.
Don't get like Bobby Heenan. Don't poison this guy's mind.
Oh, he will have sick mind. He will like to let arm off. You like to eat white meat. Oh, you will go and use this and hit in the head and bust them in plenty places.
Wait a minute. You know, these people, you know what they're like, Mr. Fuji. Don't put they might like Oriental food, too. Who knows?
I don't think they like Japanese food. Very poison there.
Very good, Mr. Fuji. Putting together a deal. All of a sudden, he's got Sika and Kamala and Kimchi. Thank you.
Banzai!
So we learn it here first. Fuji now with the tooth of the Chaka Khan. Fuji says he now has a black man who hasn't forgotten what the white man has done to them. He loves to eat white meat. White man meat, I should say. Mean Gene having some fun there says Kamala may like Oriental food if Fuji isn't too careful. Fuji replying at the end there, he says Kamala doesn't like Japanese food. It's poison to him, boy-san. I wrote LOL, fun banter there between Mean Gene and Fuji, but the big story here is that Mr. Fuji, now the manager of Kamala and Sika, Kimchi also thrown in as well. But the best part about all of this is we get the debut of Green Kamala. It's a sensation right now on our social media pages, all over Twitter, lots of retweets, likes, responses, just simple pictures of Green Kamala in action. What do you mean by green, Ray? Well, if you go and check it out, Kamala ditches the white paint on his face, on his body, in favor of some yellow paint and really some bright green paint. Looks really cool. Looks like a cartoon version of Kamala. Kamala already didn't look like a cartoon. He certainly does now with the bright, vibrant colors, but really cool looking stuff. Green Kamala, I've labeled him on our social media. And as we close out this edition of Primetime Wrestling, there's more Ken Patera talk. Plus, Bobby Heenan mentions that his 1-year anniversary as the host of Primetime Wrestling is coming up very shortly.
What is it? You got some interesting news?
Yes, I do have some interesting news.
Well, lay it on us. Oh, okay. Well, as
you make me sweat it out. You make me wait. You walk me through the woods, and you won't tell me.
Sweat it out.
I've asked you for weeks what was wrong.
You actually think I'm going to sweat out something that's coming from you?
You will.
The fountain of misinformation?
You will.
The man who misguided Ken Patera?
I didn't misguide him. You mean 59919? Any trouble that punk got into, he got into because he's an amateur athlete. All his life, somebody picked up his bags, told him to do push-ups, told him to run, told him to do this, told him to do that. He was always told. When he had to make a decision on his own, use his own brain, he failed.
Anybody
Don't blame
that
me
ever
for
got anywhere in the world of professional wrestling or any other professional sport had an outstanding amateur background except
Don't blame me.
You.
Don't blame me because this guy can't control himself.
The entire world will be blaming you. Well, that just about wraps it up here for another episode.
Oh, no, it doesn't. No, we're not done yet. I'm going to show the people a little taste of what's coming next week. Fuji Chan. Oh. And also, this month of April marks my 1 year here as host of Primetime. And during the showing of Fuji Chan next week, I'm going to have Miss Betty cater us Chinese
Miss Betty's coming?
She'll have it here. Chinese cuisine. Whether she's here or not yet, I'm not going to let anybody know about it.
We're going to see any of this thing at all? Or
roll it. Cut, that's enough. Just a little tease. This is going to be the greatest mystery you've ever seen.
Due to a diminishing number of requests, we will indeed see another episode.
And if you'd like to get me an anniversary gift, feel free.
Close your eyes. What do you see?
Nothing.
That's what you're going to get. We also have some exciting matches lined up for next week. Of course, as we promised you, that title match now between the Hart Foundation and the Rougeaus, and our feature will be Macho Man himself, Randy Savage.
Chinese cuisine, dinner catered here.
Junkyard Dog. So long, everybody.
All right, Bobby, continuing to talk about Mr. 59919, Ken Patera, that amateur. Plus, next week, Fuji Chan going to be on the show. Mr. Fuji and Don Morocco going to show off their acting chops. And Bobby Heenan promises to cater the show with Chinese food in order to celebrate his 1 year anniversary as the host here on Primetime. And Gorilla, he has a gift for Bobby Heenan to end the show. What is it? Close your eyes. Bobby Heenan closes his eyes. What do you see? Nothing. And there's your gift, Bobby Heenan. Heenan falling for it there as we roll on to the following weekend in WWF Superstars for April 11th. Tape back March 21st in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Thomas & Mack Center. The WWF's debut in Las Vegas, I should add. It's Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, Bruno Sammartino on commentary as always. And we kick off the show a clip from last week showing the bloody Hacksaw Jim Duggan returning to ringside and attacking Nikolai Volkoff. Before we head to the ring, the Birdman, Koko Beware, Frankie in his corner, taking on Jimmy Jack Funk, and Jimmy Jack jumps the Birdman and mocks Koko with some flapping. Jimmy Jack Funk walking around the ring, flapping his arms. But the Funker turns around right into a dropkick from Ware, and Koko lighting up Jimmy Jack Funk. The Birdman off the middle rope with the Lawler-esque fist drop. Koko rocking that Michael Jackson white glove here, which just drives Jesse Ventura nuts. Who checked that glove? Koko tries for a flying splash in the corner. Funk out of the way. An awesome bump into the turnbuckles goes Koko Beware, missing that Stinger-style splash. From there, Jimmy Jack dropping Ware throat first across the top rope, but the Funker telegraphs a backdrop and right into the Ghostbuster. Koko Beware going to pick up the win, 2 minutes and 18 seconds. And after a successful win, now seems like a great time to hear from the Birdman. Standing by with Mean Gene Okerlund, here's Koko Beware.
The World Wrestling Federation back at it. But in the meantime, let me bring out from the great state of Tennessee. I don't know, is it Johnson City? Is it Union?
It's Union City, brother. Union City, Tennessee, brother. A little small country town.
All right.
Yeah. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. This is my very dear, close, personal, longtime friend, Coco Beware. And on his shoulder, his sidekick, for the Birdman, it makes sense, Frankie.
You know what thing means, G? I feel good. Good. I feel good, oh yes I do. Every time I do the bird, makes me feel good. Wow, yeah, I feel good, me G. Woo, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, a couple of names I might pop up to you. I don't know if they're going to make you feel too good or not. One would be the natural Butch Reed, and another one might just be Danny Davis, the newest addition to the Hart Foundation.
I tell you one thing, Danny Davis, brother. I'm going to teach you a lesson, Danny Davis. Yeah, you've been going around. You've been shooting your best shot, brother. You've been hiding. I say you've been hiding behind the Hart Foundation. Well, brother, you're going to have to come out front now. You're going to have to meet somebody. And you're going to have to meet the bird. And you're going to have to be ready. Because I want you to go for what you know. Because I feel good, you know what I mean, G? Because I know. The WrestleMania is all over, brother, and I flew with 90,000 people. I'm going to fly in your face, Danny Davis, so be ready for the bird, brother.
All right, he is the Birdman. He is Coco Beware, and Frankie, watch out.
All right, and Coco, he had the ability, no doubt about that, and he was over enough at this point in his run, but they never really helped his cause. Size was the only thing holding Coco down, which was basically the story of his career. But here in 87, Coco's still a hell of a talent. As we move on to Update with Craig DeGeorge standing by, remember last week Mr. Fuji required the services of Kamala, Kim Chi, and Sika the Samoan? Well, he's done it again. This week, Mr. Fuji acquires the services of Demolition.
Hi, everyone. We have tag team news for you. Mr. Fuji has done it again. Now managing not only Morocco and Orton and Kamala and Sika, but also Demolition. And Axe and Smash are telling opponents to get out of the way or else.
The reason why Axe and myself were put on this earth is to demolish people. And it doesn't matter where or when our new manager tells us to demolish them. We do, isn't that right?
All we have to do to be successful is demolish people. All we have to do to be successful is pay attention to our new manager. That means Rougeau's, Can-Am Connection, Hart Foundation. It doesn't matter who steps in our way. You're going to go down. Because we want to be the #1 tag team in professional wrestling. And nobody, absolutely nobody, is going to stand in our way. Very, very true, Demolition. You make opponents suffer. You will tear into their body. You will make the bones crackle, one piece at a time, under the guidance of Mr. Fuji.
All right, Mr. Fuji may look different now, but remember, beneath that makeup is still the same wicked, but most often victorious man. As for his tag team Demolition, frankly, they are scary. It's certainly a major contender for the tag team title.
Oh, it's on now, boys, on. Mr. Fuji, now the manager of Axe and Smash Demolition. Can't wait to see more of that in the coming weeks. But for now, it's back to the ring. It's the debut of the new Dream Team. That's Greg the Hammer Valentine and Dino Bravo with luscious Johnny V in their corner. Wait a minute, Johnny V gave up Demolition but kept the new Dream Team? Anywho, the new Dream Team taking on the team of second-generation star Nick Kiniski, the son of former NWA World Champion Gene Kiniski, and his partner here, Tommy Sharp. And we see the new Dream Team here, even though this was taped a week before WrestleMania 3, so I guess Brutus wasn't paying attention. And Bravo, now a blonde at this new set of tapings, but still rocking those cool Canadian flag trunks. As we get an insert promo at the top of the match, Johnny V trashing Brutus Beefcake. He says Beefer isn't half the man that Dino Bravo is. And on commentary, Jesse Ventura talking about how quickly this entire thing came about. I'll say, Jesse. As the action gets going, Kiniski looks good early on until Bravo flubs a fucking arm drag. Well, it's the juiced up version of Dino Bravo, so I guess. Tommy Sharp then tags in and takes a beating from the heels. The heels taking turns dropping big elbows, before Dino Bravo lands his patented, well, what Gorilla would call his side suplex. And Bravo going to pick up the win for his team in 3 minutes and 13 seconds. So let me get this straight here. Greg Valentine goes from having to carry Brutus Beefcake for almost 2 years. And now he's gifted, and I put air quotes around gifted there, guys. But Bravo's now gifted Dino Bravo, which could honestly be even worse than Beefcake, as Bravo is rapidly deteriorated as far as mobility goes here. And every time the Hammer gets a partner, first Beefcake, then Dino Bravo, you have to think to yourself, it can't possibly get any worse. Enter Rhythm and Blues. Poor Hammer.
And a couple of gentlemen that have got to be delighted with the results of WrestleMania 3. My guests at this time, they are the Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel from Quebec City in Canada, and from Minneapolis, Minnesota, my hometown, Mr. Tom Zink. And Rick, Tom and yourself really meshed in WrestleMania 3 against Morocco and Orton.
Well, excitement is still in the air of the Can-Am Connection. We can't believe it. Right now we're at the top of our career. Momentum is going for the Can-Am Connection, and we want to say a big thank you because those people that was there, over 93,000 people, they gave us the energy that we needed, to beat such a team. Morocco and Norton, you're talking about, one of the best team in the world. It was hard, and we came out of that ring, we felt great about it, and right now, everybody knows what's on our mind, Gene. It's no secret for anybody. Right now, we're looking about, the Hart Foundation and that Tag Team Championship.
I'll tell you what, Tom, you've come a long, long way. I remember you growing up in the Twin Cities area as just a small lad, but you're teaming up with Ricky Martel and, of course, coming up with the Can-Am Connection. Thing really gelled for you, and you've got to be delighted.
That's right, Gene. I'm really delighted. First of all, I'd like to say I got the greatest partner in the world. Without him, this man's helped me so much in my career, and WrestleMania things have just been going great. And all the fans have really gotten behind the Can-Am Connection. I'd like to thank all the people out there that supported us in WrestleMania because it really helped us through the match.
Periodically, during the course of a match, do you ever talk to or speak to Tom in a little French?
Oh, he knows a lot of French, huh? Oui, monsieur. Oui, yeah. I don't know that much French, Gene, but I'm teaching him still. He does communicate to me.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he teaches you French like he has taught you to wrestle, Tom Zink, you got a lot to look forward to because I got to tell you something. The Can-Am Connection is red hot on the heels of WrestleMania 3, and watch out. Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, because these two men are coming after you in the World Wrestling.
Your French, Gene, no. You know
my French. No,
yeah,
Gene, I'm sorry, monsieur. Just the inspector and myself with a little casual French, nothing more. Right. Fans, they're the best, the Can-Am Connection. You won't want to miss them.
Wait, what's that? I've just been informed, guys, that Leaping Lanny Poffo has a poem for us all.
Hello, wrestling fans. It's Leaping Lanny on the air with another way to meet your favorite stars. Life has many sweet rewards, but take a look at this. World Wrestling Federation ice cream bars.
Let's go to ringside.
Even Lanny Poffo getting in on the shameless shilling here of the WWF ice cream bars. Let's go to ringside indeed, Vince. And it is the Honky Tonk Man, Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on Jim Young. As we hear that awesome original theme music one more time. Clearly, the lyrics are honky tonkin', but according to the Honky Tonk Man, this song was called That's All Right Honky Tonk Mama. I don't think that's uttered once in the entire song, but it is what it is. And coming out of WrestleMania, the Jake the Snake Honky Tonk Man feud continues with Honky and his manager Jimmy Hart, who have now started a brand new Ban the DDT campaign, as they want WWF President Jack Tunney to make Jake's DDT finisher illegal to use in the ring. In fact, Jimmy Hart out with a giant sign that reads, Ban the DDT, in protest here at ringside, and Honky Tonk Man now carrying that guitar he promised to complete his gimmick and character. But Honky's still in the suspenders gimmick here as we get an insert promo from Jimmy Hart encouraging us to ban the DDT. So Honky didn't have the suspenders at WrestleMania, yet these were the last sets of tapings before WrestleMania, so I guess I figured out another one if somebody else hasn't already. Honky Tonk Man ditched the suspenders at WrestleMania 3. Brand new gear for the Honky Tonk Man at the big event. But for now, here on TV, back to the suspenders wearing version of the character. We saw Coco drop one not long ago. Honky Tonk Man got to channel his cousin Jerry Lawler as well with a fist drop from the middle rope and a beatdown on the outside to poor Jim Young. Honky then back in the ring with a sit-out clothesline and the shake, rattle, and roll neckbreaker. Picks up the win in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Post-match, the Honky Tonk Man doing a little dancing, even plays the guitar behind his back, while Jimmy Hart once again reminds us to ban the DDT, folks, complete with an address for fans to write to and show their support. Yeah, more like show their mailing address for the WWF catalogs. Seems like an illegal scam, but 'twas the times. And we continue on with more action. The fabulous Rougeau brothers of Jacques and Ramon taking on the team of Bill Howard and Terry Gibbs. Bill Howard? Fucking RATAMYUS? RATAMYUS in the WWF? Finishing out his career here is Bill Howard, working on the underneath. Worked everywhere from ICW for Angelo Poffo to Memphis to Puerto Rico, Amarillo, as the RATAMYUS character, and everywhere else is himself Bill Howard. Mid-Atlantic, worked for the IWE and All Japan over in Japan, as well as Florida, Georgia, the Tri-States, for Leroy McGurk, Central States, the AWA, Hawaii. A real journeyman and a solid hand underneath was Bill Howard, and he's finishing up his career here in 1987, going to do a couple jobs in the WWF on his way out. And thanks to adding names to their ring robes, Jesse Ventura finally learns that Raymond Rougeau is the one with the mustache. Congratulations, Jesse. As we get an insert promo from the Rougeau brothers, who say that what Dino Bravo did at WrestleMania showed his true colors, and now Brutus Beefcake has learned too. Dino and Valentine will pay when they step in the ring with the Rougeau brothers. And I've got a lot more to talk about that feud, the Rougeau's new Dream Team feud, when we get to the May edition of the Grenade. Because what we saw here in the United States was not everything that was going on. This is a pretty hot feud up in the Montreal territory for the WWF, one that even included Pat Patterson as part of the new Dream Team. A third leg, if you will. And you can insert your own jokes there. As the match gets going, it's fun double teaming by the Rougeaus and really good timing for the spots by the brothers, sending the job guys out to the floor. Then back inside, they take turns leapfrogging each other and landing on Howard on the ropes. A move made famous later by the Bad Company, a.k.a. Orient Express, Kato and Tanaka. Terry Gibbs sees enough of the double teaming, he rushes in to save his partner, but eats a double dropkick from the Rougeaus. And from there it is Le Bon des Rougeaux on Howard, and Raymond Rougeau with the jackknife into the pin scores the win in just 1 minute and 58 seconds. Rougeau brothers had some fun double team spots here, but lacked the it factor as far as connecting with the national crowd, at least as baby faces. And their feud with Dino Bravo and now Johnny V. Greg Valentine marches on. And as we go on, Craig DeGeorge, I can't believe this, he's found Miss Elizabeth for a one-on-one interview. Here's Craig DeGeorge. What a brave man.
All right, with me right now, of course, the lovely Elizabeth. But Elizabeth, I want to ask you about Macho Man Randy Savage. Just what is it like now dealing with him after losing the title belt?
Well, I have to tell you that I've never seen him like this before. He's gotten to the point where he's cruel. He's just possessed. He wants to regain this title so much. I don't know what to do. I've never seen him like this before.
And Liz saying that she's never seen the Macho Man like this before. He's more cruel and possessed. More cruel and possessed? Poor Liz. Clearly, this storyline will go on with the Macho Man Randy Savage chasing Ricky Steamboat back for that IC title that he feels he should have never lost. And speaking of the Dragon, he's sitting by with his wife Bonnie Steamboat. They have a very important message to announce to the WWF audience.
You know something, ladies and gentlemen, it seems as though on November the 22nd, suffering the injury at the hands of Randy Savage, that my life, my wrestling career was coming to an end. But on WrestleMania 3, March the 29th, victory could not be any sweeter, winning this championship from Randy Savage. And Bonnie, why don't you tell them the other good news?
Ricky and I are going to have a little dragon, so we have a dragon in the oven.
That's right. This is going to be the year of the dragon. Everything is coming together now. My life, my wrestling career, a family on the way. And Randy Savage, if you think for one moment, one split second that you're going to be taking all this away from me, you are sadly mistaken. You are wrong. If you think that you can tear the heart and soul out of this body, it will never happen.
All right, and Steamer says that everything is coming together. Steamboat is the new Intercontinental Champion, and there's even a little dragon in the oven, which ironically is the beginning of the end of everything coming together for Ricky Steamboat. It's been reported that the dragon had been promised a year-long title reign. Unfortunately, that will soon be cut extremely short. You want time off? The fuck is that, pal? So Craig DeGeorge managed to track down Miss Elizabeth for her words just a few moments ago. This time he's caught up with the former Intercontinental Champion himself, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Craig, be careful.
Okay, Randy Macho Man Savage is making his way toward the dressing room. We're going to try to get a word on what happened to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at WrestleMania.
I'm not saying nothing to nobody. My comment is no comment.
All right, well, some have said that he will never regain the championship title that he once had.
What are you talking about never regain?
Some people...
You're out of line, man. You got a lot of guts. I'll tell you something right now. You want to comment? I'll give you a comment. The dragon will fall. Oh, yeah, real soon. Because I'll tell you something. I'm going to get that Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship belt back. No doubt about it. And don't you ever say nothing else against that. The press or anybody. Either my friend or my lunch, you get out of the way. Itsy bitsy dragon fans, get out of my way. I'm going to take the belt, and that's nothing nobody can do about it.
All right, at first, Randy Savage says his comment is no comment. But then he comes back into the segment. Funny stuff there from the Macho Man. And Savage says the dragon will fall, and the Macho Man will regain the IC title. And the Macho Man, the story being told here, he's more nutty than usual. He's lost his mind since he lost that IC title. Look out, Ricky Steamboat. As the long segment of promos and vignettes continue, we're off to the Ken Patera Story, Part 2.
Ken Patera's sensational amateur career, his Olympic medals, and his Pan Am victories. But after turning professional wrestler and working with Bobby Heenan, Ken Patera changed. The tragedy began when a fine Olympic athlete was swayed by the twisted, greedy mentality of one of the most manipulative managers in all of professional sports. Ken Patera signed with Bobby Heenan, but his golden image became immediately tarnished as he developed into one of the brain's most successful revenue-producing wrestlers. Heenan molded Ken Patera from Olympic athlete to bona fide monster. Where did all of this lead Ken Patera? To financial reward? Yes. To championship opportunities? Yes. But the vulnerability of this Olympian was overwhelming. He could not resist the money, the accolades, or the adulation. All of Heenan's efforts did not lead Ken Patera to the title, to respect, or to fulfill promises. No, it led Ken Patera to this.
All right, and it appears that Ken Patera will be released from prison very shortly, and he plans to make a comeback to the ring. And the action continues. It's the Mighty Hercules with Bobby the Brain Heenan taking on West Coaster Billy Anderson. We get an insert promo to kick things off. Billy Jack Haynes shows off his banded forehead from those steel chain shots he took at WrestleMania. Haynes says he hasn't forgotten about WrestleMania 3. Billy Jack says anywhere, anytime, any type of match. Back to the action. Jesse Ventura on commentary says, Billy Jack has psychological problems. That's an understatement, Jesse. And the full Nelson picks up the quick win here over Billy Anderson, just a minute and 2 seconds. From there, it's an insert promo on Brutus Beefcake, who talks Adrian Adonis. Beaver says he cut Adonis's hair at WrestleMania 3, and now he has to take care of the rest of them. In a rebuttal of sorts, we hear from Jimmy Hart and his man, the adorable Adrian Adonis, the now bald Adrian Adonis, talking about Brutus Beefcake. And in this particular promo, Jimmy Hart does all of the talking as Adonis shows off his brand new shaved head. Adonis looking none too pleased with his brand new haircut as he seeks revenge against Brutus Beefcake. And as we close out this edition of Superstars, it's tag team champions Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation. In a non-title match, Jimmy Hart in their corner, as well as Dangerous Danny Davis for that matter. The Hart Foundation in full effect at ringside here as they take on the team of Special Delivery Jones and Rick Hunter. And right away we get an insert promo from the British Bulldogs, the former champions. They say they're keeping an eye on the Hart Foundation. And prior to the match, the Harts with a group huddle and a break. But it's SD Jones with a surprise small package. Hey, special delivery small package, get it? Jones, though, with a surprise small package, gets a near fall on the anvil. But it doesn't take long for a heart attack to come into play. A heart attack on Ricky Hunter will pick up the win, 2 minutes and 23 seconds. And post-match, the Hart Foundation, including Danny Davis, beating down poor Ricky Hunter, shit-canning SD Jones out of the ring. But it's the British Bulldogs who arrive ringside, and they've got Matilda with them. Matilda, the Bulldog, chasing off the heels. She even gets a bite of the megaphone. So at this point, after 2 weeks of TV after WrestleMania, lots of teams appear to be played up here as contenders. But the Bulldogs, they still want their belts back. They're the former champions. Let's not forget that. And it's one final promo here on Superstars this week. This time, Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Bobby the Brain Heenan and the King, Harley Race. And they're going to be talking the WWF champion, Hulk Hogan.
One would get the impression, talking to Bobby Heenan, that he is truly flying high. Bobby, come on in. Come on, Bobby, come on in. I think you and I are on a first-name basis. We've talked behind these cameras and microphones long enough that I can call you Bobby, and that's not going to offend you. You've got a real sour look on your face this week.
I haven't come out here to discuss how I feel or how I think or what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do with you or anybody else. But right now, I want you people up off that rented furniture and drop down on one knee, because you're in the presence now of the king of professional wrestling, and he's got something to say, and you better listen.
I'd like to hear from you, the king of wrestling. He is indeed Harley Race. Your Highness.
It took me almost a year to the day, when I came to the WWF to accomplish a dream, and it's coming true. I've got Hulk Hogan one-on-one. I have been the dominant figure in wrestling for 2 decades. And now, Hogan, I'm going to show you what the King is capable of doing. The King is the ultimate in wrestling today.
Oh, we've seen what you're capable of doing.
Don't interrupt.
Sorry, Your Majesty.
Say it one more time.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Don't kill a good thing here, pal. I'm not going to do this all day.
You'll do exactly as you're told to do when you're in the presence of the King.
Beat it.
What?
You dismiss.
What?
Get out of here now.
What? That's an insult.
Beat it.
I'm talking to Tunney.
You can talk to whoever you want to talk to, but when you're in the presence of the King, you'll respect the King, Mr. Okerlund. And I use that term awful loosely. And Hogan will learn to respect me more than any human being on the face of this earth.
Listen. Listen, world's heavyweight champion, and listen well. Because this is the King speaking. The King of professional wrestling. And if you want to come and act and be treated like the rest of those humanoid commoners out there, fine, because that's right where you belong. Right in the midst of them. This interview is just about over.
A second. I talked to Tunney. He doesn't want you handling this microphone. And that's enough for the insults on me. That's it.
Not quite.
Oh. This is it, Heenan. I'm sorry. That's too much. Coming in here trying to take complete control of this television program, they're not going to stand for it. Thank you, Jack Tunney, for standing behind me.
All right, and almost a year to the day of Harley Race's arrival here in the WWF, the King's time has finally come. He's been sitting on his throne for nearly a year, but now he gets that ultimate crown, a title shot against the champion, Hulk Hogan. As we move on to Wrestling Challenge for April 12th, taped March 22nd, Phoenix, Arizona, Veterans Memorial Coliseum, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary. And away to the ring we go, 6-man tag team action, Tito Santana teaming with the British Bulldogs to take on the trio of Jimmy Jack Funk, the Gladiator, and Barry O. And this should be one of Barry O's last matches for quite a while. But again, we'll talk more about that in the month of May 1987. For now, we get an insert promo here during the 6-man tag from Dangerous Danny Davis, who says he's not impressed with Tito or the Bulldogs. And remember, this was taped before WrestleMania, so the Dynamite Kid here doing next to nothing in the ring. He tags in once to deliver a headbutt, then tags right back out. Meanwhile, Davey Boy Smith has really upped his game, trying to cover for Dynamite not being able to do much. Davey with some great power and speed moves here as the babyfaces dominate Barry O early on. Jimmy Jack Funk tags in, manages to take over on Tito Santana briefly, but a tag to Davey Boy signals the end for the jobbers to the stars. Davey Boy with the hot tag of sorts takes out all three of his opponents before whipping the Gladiator into Tito Santana's flying forearm. And the baby faces pick up the win here, 3 minutes and 56 seconds. And we're off to Wrestler's Rebuttal with Craig DeGeorge. This time he's standing by with Brutus Beefcake. And Beefer standing by with a bag of Adrian Adonis's hair that he cut at WrestleMania. Beefcake having a little fun here. And when Brutus said he wanted to see Adonis bald, never in his wildest dreams did he imagine it'd be himself, Brutus Beefcake, doing the cutting. But Beefcake not satisfied here, still looking for more revenge, looking to get Adrian Adonis in the ring. And speaking of the ring, we head back to ringside. The Natural Butch Reed, Doctor of Style Slick in his corner, taking on CV Afi this week. And we get an insert promo from Slick as he talks Tito Santana, paying for ripping up his suit at WrestleMania. He's going to pay courtesy of the Natural. And as the match gets going, Butch Reed taking over on the offense. Reed, though, misses a corner charge, and it's Afi with some generic shots in return. Afi, though, telegraphs a backdrop, and the Natural cuts him off. Big press slam by Butch Reed, dropping CV Afi straight down on his chest, rolls him over. Butch Reed with his foot on the chest of Afi gets the win in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Unfortunately, the crowd absolutely dead for this one. And I really don't know what happened to Butch Reed during this era, but just awful. He has been awful here in 1987. Dave Meltzer blamed it on prior injuries heading into his stint with the WWF. I loved Butch Reed prior to this run. I loved Butch Reed in Doom. I love the idea here as a kid of this cartoon-esque, if you will, character, this gimmick, this Sweet Daddy Siki style gimmick of the Natural Butch Reed. I loved it. But in hindsight, you go back, you watch the matches, and it just wasn't there. As we now head off to Mean Gene Okerlund, this time standing by with Jacques and Ramon, the fabulous Rougeau brothers.
And I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I called it with this team when they arrived here in the World Wrestling Federation just a few short months ago. I said they were going to be great, and indeed they are sensational. They are the fabulous Rougeau brothers from Montreal, Quebec, and Canada. Come on in, Raymond and Jacques. And gentlemen, a lot of things happening right now in terms of tag team action. And Jacques, perhaps I could have you address the subject of the new Dream Team. That's what they're calling themselves.
Well, you know, who would have pictured this? Dino Bravo and Greg the Hammer Valentine after what they did to Beefcake and what happened to us. The only thing that's going down our minds right now is we came here, like you said, and you called the shot Mean Gene. You said the Rougeau brothers are going to come down and they're going to make their way to the top. Well, we did it the honest way. We did it the way my uncle and my father taught us to do. We got to the gym every day. We went and practiced our wrestling moves in the ring. We did it the honest way. But Dino Bravo, you've been here in a real short time, and the only way for you to be recognized, because your talent is nothing to talk about, was doing the things you did to us. Well, now you want to team up with Hammer Valentine. Well, that's fine with me, because Valentine, we've had some matches down the road too, and you know how the Rougeau brothers are. Raymond, Brutus Beefcake has been suckered by them. We've been suckered by them. Someone's going to pay some dues somewhere.
You know, Jacques and Raymond, you must admit, I think Dino Bravo already has proven that he's going to try to take some shortcuts here.
Well, that's fine, because that's all he's been doing is taking shortcuts. But you know, the only shortcut he's going to take is back to Montreal, out of the World Wrestling Federation, where he belongs. Because I'm telling you one thing, Mean Gene, we have our eyes on the new Dream Team. We have our eyes on Bravo and Valentine. And I'm telling you something, gentlemen, when you get into the ring with the Rougeau brothers, it's going to be a nightmare for you guys.
The new Dream Team should certainly take heed of the comments of the fabulous Rougeau brothers, Raymond and Jacques. We're right back.
All right, and while most teams are gunning for the Hart Foundation's World Tag Team titles, and no doubt the Rougeaus are as well, they seem to have their sights set on the new Dream Team for the short term. And we already heard from him once, but we hear from him twice on the same program. Yet another Brutus Beefcake promo on the same edition of Wrestling Challenge. Beefcake says he's going to make Adrian Adonis look worse than he already does. Seems kind of hard to do. He also promises to turn the new Dream Team into a nightmare. And remember, these weren't localized insert promos. These were promos planned for the show. So you have two promos of Brutus Beefcake on the same show, purposely placed on the same show. Talk about trying to get a guy over in rapid fashion. It seems like the WWF really working hard to get Jim Duggan over on the Superstars shows and Brutus Beefcake on the Wrestling Challenge shows as well. Clearly two guys in line for big pushes here in the WWF. As we go back to the ring, it's the Killer Bees, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, B. Brian Blair, taking on the infamous Job Guide team of Dave Wagner and Rick Rinslow. As the Bees, wearing their masks for this one, Bobby Heenan says you either wear them or you don't. You can't do both. Gorilla says that's not a legal brain, but Bobby Heenan thinks it should be. Heenan then shits all over the new outfits of the Bees, including what appears to be sneakers they're wrestling in as well. Gorilla Monsoon says he understands they have good traction with their brand new shoes. Oh, Gorilla. And in the middle of the match, we go to an odd instant replay of the Job Guys being body slammed, which leads me to believe they just edited part of the match out, and I'm not really complaining. But it's Brian Blair with the Bee Sting, the Bee Bumper, as Gorilla calls it here, the butt of Iceman Parsons. But Brian Blair with the Bee Sting on Wagner, and Brunzell Dropkick picks up the win in just 2 minutes, 48 seconds for the Killer Bees. And the interesting set of promos continue. Mean Gene Okerlund now standing by with the future Brooklyn Brawler. It's Steve Lombardi.
From Brook, is it Brook? Steve Lombardi come in here. I'm not certain. There are 5 boroughs in the city of New York.
Brooklyn,
You are from
New York, Gene. It's Brooklyn, New York. And let me tell you something, Paul Roma. You're coming out here and you're ranting and you're raving about what you're going to do to me. But once that bell rings, that's when it counts. You have nothing to say. You have nothing to do. The best thing you could do is don't even show up.
What kind of talk is that, Lombardi? You know better than that. You want your opponent.
He better know better than that. He better not show up.
Well, I think you're probably being a little self-serving here, sir. But one thing I'd like to understand: are you managed by anybody these days?
I don't need a manager. I don't need anyone. I go in there and I do what I want when I want. Paul Roma's nothing but a musclehead. He don't belong in the ring. He don't have enough talent, experience. He has nothing.
All right, I want to get your opinion on some of the things that are happening here in the World Wrestling Federation, Steve Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, I'm very curious how you perceive this situation with Danny Davis. You knew him because you've wrestled in this great organization for years. He was a referee in a few of your matches, was he not?
Yes, and it was very fair.
What do you mean he was
very fair? He played it by the rules. He played it by the book.
Well, if he was that good, I don't think World Wrestling Federation officials would have given the, get rid of him.
They're jealous of him. Everyone's jealous of Danny Davis. That's why they're all on his back, and that's why they gave him the, as you would say...
Well, I mean, he was terminated by the World Wrestling Federation.
He was terminated. He just chose to leave.
Wait a minute. Now, you are a professional wrestler. Let me ask you this question. How in the world do you think that Danny Davis can go from being a referee with no wrestling or athletic credentials whatsoever to now being one of the great wrestlers in the world?
Easy. He has the finest man behind him, Jimmy Hart and the Hart Foundation. It's easy.
And Lombardi, I'm glad I asked you all about this. Say hi to the folks in Flatbush for me, will you?
All right, so even though the feud never really materialized beyond that initial attack from Lombardi on Roma several months back now, Lombardi's still talking trash on Paul Roma. And I started to think, since this was post-WrestleMania, maybe this was recorded a while back and just uses filler here. Anything's possible. And at this point on Challenge, we get a replay of the Ken Patera Story Part 2, so it's back to the ring for the King, Harley Race. Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner, taking on Jim Young. With Bobby Heenan at ringside, Luscious Johnny V will join the Gorilla on commentary for this one. We get an insert promo from Outback Jack. Outback Jack talking about royalty, talking about the King, Harley Race.
There's never been any kings in Australia, and I know the United States has never had any kings. Harley Race, you're the self-proclaimed king of wrestling. Mate, you've been standing in the midday sun too long. You look more like a queen, champ.
Oh, look out!
All right, and Outback pointing out there's no kings in Australia or the U.S. In fact, Outback says that Harley looks more like a queen. Wow. Even Gorilla and Johnny V there were shocked by that line. You can hear them both pop. Oh, what? He said what? About Harley Race? And not much to this match, as you might imagine. Young runs into a Harley clothesline, and the cradle suplex ends it. 1 minute and 28 seconds for the King, Harley Race. Harley Race versus Outback Jack. Would have loved to have seen what Harley could have done to him in the ring. And at the conclusion of the Harley Race match, Johnny V announces on commentary that he has a big announcement coming very soon, as it's off to another edition of the Snake Pit. This week, Jake Roberts' guest is the Outlaw Ron Bass. Don't say that everybody didn't get a shot at the Snake Pit here. Roberts asks Bass why they call him the Outlaw. Bass tells us that he was not given the name, but rather he earned the name from every opponent he's ever faced. Every fan in the arena recognizes him as an outlaw. Jake cuts him off to ask about Blackjack Mulligan, a man even bigger than Bass. But Bass runs down the Mulligan family and issues a challenge to Blackjack Mulligan. Unfortunate for Bass, Mulligan is all but gone, so I guess Bass going to get the de facto win here in the Battle of the Texans. Up next on Challenge, we're treated to replays from last week's edition of Superstars, the action between Hacksaw Duggan and the Iron Sheik, of course, Nikolai Volkoff, attacking Duggan in that one. And as promised just a little bit ago, Johnny V standing by with his special announcement. Let's hear from Johnny V.
Well, Brain, I know you did not hear it because you were down with the king inside the ring, but Luscious Johnny V said he had a very special announcement for us. Some big news.
The big news that I'm talking about is the simple fact that I have to hand over my rights, baby, to the Demolition to Mr. Fuji. And the reason being is that Luscious Johnny V has to concentrate on the dream team of Bravo and Valentine. And Beefcake, we're going to get around to you later, baby. We're not done with you yet, but it's going to be Valentine, Bravo, and Johnny V's dream team.
Well, hand over the rights indeed. You can bet that some money changed hands as well.
All right, and that's where we find out yet again. Johnny V tells us that he sold the contracts of Demolition to Mr. Fuji in order to concentrate more on the new dream team. Worked out great for one of the sides. I'll let you guys guess which one. And with that announcement, it's to the ring with Axe and Smash Demolition now with their new manager, Mr. Fuji, in their corner, taking on the team of Billy Anderson and Leaping Lanny Poffo. And in fact, Leaping Lanny has a poem on Demolition, talking about not needing paint in order to scare people, but the Demolition music hits during the poem. They cut off his poem. I wrote awesome. Just how awesome is Demolition here? And not only are Axe and Smash rocking the face paint, but Mr. Fuji now in full-blown face paint as well. Red and yellow this week, by the way. That doesn't work for me, brother. As the match gets going, we get an insert promo from Fuji. Demolition will torture opponents, make them suffer. Ha ha ha, boy-san. Mr. Fuji saying that Demolition will make their opponents suffer. Could we be seeing a brand new Demolition? Even nastier than before? And in the ring, it is demolish and destroy on both Anderson and Poffo before the Demolition decapitation ends it on poor Billy Anderson. Demolition going to pick up the win here in 2 minutes and 49 seconds. As we close out this edition of Wrestling Challenge, one more promo. This time, Mean Gene standing by with Rick Martel and Tom Zink, the Can-Am Connection.
You know, I cannot recall in all the years that I've covered this great sport of professional wrestling, a tag team that has enjoyed such widespread popularity as the Can-Am Connection. The Canadian portion from Quebec City, of course, is Ricky Martel, and his tag team partner, the American end of the Can-Am Connection from Minneapolis, Minnesota, is none other than Tom Zink. Gentlemen, I can't, I guess, talk enough about the great matches you've had in the past, but from here on out, Ricky, you know everyone very, very important, crucial.
Yes, very crucial. Everyone indeed, Gene. You know, it's getting harder and harder, but we're enjoying it. You know, WWF, that's the best competition in the world, and believe me, we know it now more than ever. You know, but we're prepared every time we step into that ring. You know, we want to add new dimension to the Can-Am Connection. Every time we're thinking about new techniques, new wrestling moves, we want to take our opponent by surprise, and you know what's helping us a great deal. You know, and we love it. You know, the people, the great reception that the people are giving us all the time, they're with us 100%, and that must mean we're on the right track, I'm sure.
You know, Rick, you just touched on it, and Tom, I'm going to have you address it. The one thing that I noticed that I can differentiate between the Can-Am Connection and a lot of other tag teams we see here in the World Wrestling Federation is the phenomenal communication the two of you have in the ring. Teamwork is so very important.
That's right, Gene. And what a great thing. My best friend is my partner. He's like a brother to me. He's taken me a lot of places, and believe me, we're ready for any kind of competition, and winning is very important. And I'd like to thank the fans. They've given us such great support. They get us excited. The adrenaline's flowing, and boy, with the people behind us and the stuff we use, let's hope. That's right. There's no stopping us, and believe me, we want to take it all the way to the top.
You know, gentlemen, if we take a look at this thing, as we get further and further up the ladder, the matches become much tougher. Ricky, of course, the competition becomes so much better.
Yes, especially, you know, when every team, you know, has in mind that World Tag Team Championship around their waist, you know, and we want it real bad, you know, and like the song says, we're looking for a heartbeat. Yes, the Heart Foundation, and believe me, when we find them, we're going to be prepared for them. But until then, you know, each match, like you said earlier, is very crucial, but we're doing our homework, and, you know, with people, like Tom said, the people behind us, there's no stopping us, right?
You know, I'm very curious, aside from your daily workouts and, of course, traveling around the country and around the world in the World Wrestling Federation, Tom and Rick, what do you do on your off time? Do you get to spend some leisure time?
Oh, yes. You know, right now we have a deal where I talk my partner and I'm showing him Canada, all the beautiful cities, beautiful women, and he's showing me the United States, the beautiful cities and the beautiful women.
Is that true, Tom?
That's right. Wherever we are, whether Canada, United States, we've each got our turn. We've got a deal.
Yes, sir.
All right, they are something else. Truly one of the great tag teams here on the World Wrestling Federation. Keep an eye on Tom Zink and Rick Martel. They're going to be coming to town very, very shortly. They are the Canadian-American Connection, the Can-Am Connection. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
And the Can-Ams, another team in a long line of teams looking for a title shot against the Hart Foundation. The Can-Ams, supposedly the next in line to become the tag team champs after the Harts finish their feud with the Bulldogs. Of course, we know things change, plans change, but we'll discuss that more in depth down the road. And as we close out this edition of The Grenade, we roll on to Primetime Wrestling for April 13th, hosted by Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby the Brain Heenan, as Bobby begins to celebrate his 1-year anniversary as the quote-unquote host of Primetime Wrestling. And don't forget, he promised to cater Chinese food here this week for the show. The running joke throughout half of the episode is Bobby keeps calling for the food. It finally arrives midway through the show. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, early on in the episode, a special guest arrives onto the set in the form of Mean Gene Okerlund.
Foundation. We have a special guest in the studio, but I don't think he's here because of you. He's my personal friend, Mean Gene.
Oh, you're
Hi,
doing
Gene.
Gorilla?
Fine.
Say, I wanted to congratulate you. I really did. For putting up with this jabroni for a year.
It wasn't easy,
I don't mind telling you.
It wasn't easy.
I know.
Why do you get off talking to me like that on my program?
Your program.
My
this
program.
Is your program. This man invited me. By the way, how are Maureen and the kids doing?
Oh, just fine.
Sorry about that tough weekend out in Las Vegas. I know that.
Hey, this is my show. I'm the host here.
Who are you kidding?
You want to talk to him? You meet him in the men's room when you're combing your hair.
I happen to
that
be
won't take you long.
I happen to be. Oh, wait a minute. I happen to be in Detroit. You owe some people some money around the country.
Oh, a person a dime.
All over.
You and I made a bet on that heavyweight title bout. You owe me money. You were there.
You mean Hagler and
Absolutely not. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
I wouldn't bet with you for 1 minute.
You lost your socks.
Hey, this is
now you're going to skip everybody.
You know who else he owes? Joe Tecchi he owes.
No, in Boston?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, pal, you better pay that guy, or you could be
what was the bet?
In the Boston Harbor with weasel wedgies on.
What do you mean weasel wedgies?
Well, I didn't mean to say weasel.
Hey, okay, I want him off of here right now.
I love it.
This is my program.
We're supposed to have some groceries here too, Gene. But
yeah, that's the reason to tell you the truth. I showed up to see you, have a little something to eat, but.
All right, Mean Gene invading the primetime set there. Everybody knows how good Gorilla and Bobby Heenan were together, but people forget, some people don't even realize how good Bobby was with Mean Gene as well. Their rapport goes all the way back to the AWA days, even way before Gorilla Monsoon. And no, I'm not saying they're as good as Gorilla, though many might argue they are. My personal preference has always been Bobby and Monsoon, but Mean Gene comes in a close second, I'd have to say here. So having Bobby tied in with Gorilla and Mean Gene at the same time leads to some fun conversation there. Mean Gene walking right in there, calling Bobby Heenan a jabroni right there on TV. Okerlund also understanding that Gorilla had a tough weekend in Vegas after WrestleMania. I don't doubt that. Monsoon then stating that Bobby Heenan also owes people a lot of money too after betting on Andre the Giant at WrestleMania. Sounds illegal, I know. And of all the people that Bobby owes money to, one of them being Joe Tecchi in Boston. Had to look him up, the owner of a very famous Italian restaurant there in the Boston area. And who knows what else he was doing back then. Just saying. But this segment of the show, so fun, so good. You really got to see it to really enjoy it, so I also threw that up on our YouTube channel as well. Go check it out. And finally, about halfway through this edition of Primetime Wrestling, Bobby comes through. A good dozen boxes of Chinese food laying all over the hosting desk, but Gorilla Monsoon had to leave to take a phone call. And when he returns, Bobby Heenan has presumably eaten all of the Chinese food by himself, claiming that the crew did it. However, Bobby does offer Gorilla a bag of fortune cookies. And sadly, that's about it for this week's edition of Primetime Wrestling. Not a whole lot of sound bites this week for April 13th. And what they lacked for in sound bites here, obviously they made up for in the storyline with the Chinese food, the running gag throughout the episode. And that'll wrap it up for this week. Lots coming out of WrestleMania 3. Jim Duggan and Brutus Beefcake being pushed hard as upcoming semi-main eventers here. Lots of teams appear to be in line for a title shot against the Hart Foundation. It appears the King Harley Race is the next in line for the title shots against Hulk Hogan on the house shows. And there's still a whole lot more to cover here in the month of April. We'll see more on that feud between Jake the Snake Roberts and the Honky Tonk Man. We'll learn, will Jack Tunney ban the DDT? The Ken Patera story continues, as does comments from Bobby the Brain Heenan. And don't you guys dare think that Hacksaw Jim Duggan is done with the Iron Sheik or Nikolai Volkoff at this point. We'll see a babyface tag team matchup, a rarity here, especially on TV, between the Islanders and the Rougeau brothers upcoming, and things don't shake out exactly as you might think between these two fan favorites. We'll see what happens when Mr. Fuji pairs up his men of Kamala and Sika for tag team action. We'll also get a glimpse at a brand new tag team in the form of Jim Powers and Paul Roma. Randy Savage will continue to go crazy until he can get his revenge on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And no doubt the WWF will continue to shill those ice cream bars. All of that next time here, episode 78 of the Wrestling Memory Grenade.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Skittles, Skittles, bite-sized candies, taste the rainbow of fruit flavors. Skittles, Skittles, bite-sized candies, taste the rainbow of fruit flavors. Colorful candy shells, fruit flavors in the middle, strawberry, grape, orange, and lime. Taste the rainbow of fruit flavors. Skittles, Skittles, bite-sized candies. Taste the rainbow of fruit flavors in Skittles.
Hey guys, I want to thank you so much yet again for listening to yet another episode of the Wrestling Memory Grenade. We return next time with the second half of April 1987 in the WWF, talking all the TV leading into the May 2nd edition of the WWF's Saturday Night's Main Event, which we'll also be discussing in depth in 2 episodes' time. Until then, I want to remind everyone to follow us on social media, on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also follow and like us, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And don't forget, if you guys have a few bucks in your pockets, I'd really appreciate if you could help us pay some of the bills here. Help us keep going at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network by subscribing to our Patreon account over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Multiple tiers to choose from, but I highly recommend that $5 all-access tier. Gets you so many gifts, including my insanely detailed show notes, early access to many of our podcasts, digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure, and of course our Patreon-exclusive watch-along series. All of that and more for the low price of just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, and I think you'll like the content we offer, and every penny of it goes right back in to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. And with all of that said, I just want to thank you guys again so very much. You've really helped all of our shows in the recent weeks and months climb the charts. WrestleCopia thriving right now, the Grenade specifically thriving right now. And all of that because of you, the loyal listeners. I want to thank you guys again. And until next time, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and we'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
Well, let me tell you something there, Polyvo scrambled eggs. Let me tell you something right now. Arriba!